Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, give me one moment here. Announce that the Isaiah LaFone Show is live now. Good to see you all. So glad you are all here with me today. Just announcing and letting our folks know that we are live. We have a guest today, so we're on StreamYard, and so I can't play the show starting soon on here, or else it'll be laggy. So I just have to go ahead in here, and maybe one day we'll have good internet. Okay. All right. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. All of you will start trickling in, I suppose, very soon. 4 people watching right now across X and YouTube. Thank you guys so much for being here. My name is Isaiah Presley LaFone. Like I said, we have a guest today, so that's why I was filibustering there for a moment. We can't play the show starting soon graphics because my computer lags on here when I do it on StreamYard. Doesn't on OBS. We'll get into that later. I don't even know at this point, but But anyway, I'm so glad that you're all here with me today. Today we have on a man by the name of Wyatt Johnson. We're going to be talking about him, his life, and his political ideology, and the broader future of the right and the country in the upcoming few years. Also, we're going to be talking about Brandon Herrera, candidate for Texas's 23rd congressional district, a true America First Republican conservative fighter. He's running up against Tony Gonzalez, who, by all account, is a bought and paid for member of the establishment. Tony Gonzalez involved in an extramarital affair. Not only was he involved in an extramarital affair, but this woman, who he was pressured into sending him pictures of herself nude and into having these sexual encounters with Representative Gonzalez. This woman also committed suicide in September of 2025 by setting herself on fire. A lot of suspicious stuff going along with that. We're going to talk about it. Let's get into it. My name is Isaiah LaFone. You are watching the Isaiah LaFone Show. Mr. Johnson, how are you today?
I'm doing great, and that intro was awesome, by the way. I love it.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Yeah, thanks for having me on the show, Isaiah. I really appreciate it. And to your audience, too. We're going to have a good talk tonight. So
Absolutely. So first, before we go ahead and get started, I just want to let you talk about yourself, kind of your story, where you come from, and how you got involved in politics.
Yeah, that's a great question. I definitely have an unconventional pathway. Born and raised in the great Midwest, Wisconsin. So been here my whole life. But I've been able to do a lot of cool things, meet a lot of great people like you, the team at Martin Media. My background, I did a year of computer science at Platteville. I've always been interested in like technology and startups and politics and, kind of a polymath. I like to do it all. So, but yeah, I really like doing creative work and to meet new people and, try to save this country. There's always a lot at stake. I've helped write policy before in a lot of policy groups, talk to local politicians, state politicians, and, advocate for what I believe in. I think that's important for Gen Z. I also love to give my hot takes on, Gen Z, AI, crypto, a lot of different topics. It's really fun being featured in the New York Times in December. So yeah, it's been a blessing to work with a lot of cool people like yourself. And, I like to do it all. I like to explore and see what's out there. Be involved politically. Maybe I'd love to run someday. Maybe you can convince me on that, Isaiah. But it's a little bit about my background, and got an interesting story to tell, especially with how I got interested in politics and my faith. It's been a long and exciting journey, but I've learned a lot along the way, so it's been fun.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, yeah, tell me a little bit about how you did get involved in politics, and kind of tell me your journey through that.
Yeah, so definitely started in college. I've always been a lifelong, not I wouldn't say independent, but like libertarian, conservative Christian. Attend a Lutheran church, and I've always been politically active in school. Chatting with the governors. Met with the governor of Wisconsin, Tony Evers. And then I got involved with the Martin Memo. Had a great podcast with Zach, and I just want to make a bigger difference with the skills I have. And I think a lot of young conservatives are afraid kind of to voice their opinions. I work with so many different people on both sides of the aisle, left and right. And it's been a blessing to learn from both sides and see what we have in common and how we can move forward. I don't think that's emphasized enough, but I think that's important for Gen Z to move forward and accomplish what we need to, especially with the two-party kind of uniparty system we have. So it can be quite frustrating, to say the least.
Absolutely, absolutely. You said you met the governor, Evers. What did you think of him?
Yeah, he's not doesn't seem as much of a radical Democrat as most think. He's definitely, I'd call him a blue dog Democrat, more old school. I mainly chatted with him about innovation for Gen Z and funding for young students. I met him at Badger Boy State, where like 2 high school students get to go form like the 51st state. It's like a mock trial government. Met a lot of cool people through that, and just had a good convo with him about that. Wasn't too politically charged. It was more about like, hey, how can we compete with the East and West Coast and startups, get more funding to Wisconsin. And with businesses, he's pretty hands off. He likes to let entrepreneurs do their thing and innovate, which is good. There's still red tape in Wisconsin, but not as much as there could be in other states, like California, to be specific.
Absolutely, absolutely. You didn't tell him you were a radical far right extremist, did you?
No, I did not. I kept that under wraps.
Yeah. So you mentioned you were involved in a mock trial. Were you involved in student government, anything like that in school or anyway?
Yeah, National Honor Society. I was president of FBLA, student council. Also networked with a lot of people at TPUSA. I know most of the people who run different parts of the Wisconsin organization. And I've written different bills, a lot in like AI and tech for the state of Texas. And also, I read a really cool experience with a professor from UC Berkeley advocating for nuclear energy, because we're definitely behind in the energy race in terms of like China and other advanced countries. So, yeah, it was really cool to network with different Wisconsin, politicians. I just put together pitch decks for them, trying to get like more nuclear energy sites set up and running. So.
Absolutely. So you mentioned that you've been involved in AI and that sort of thing. So tell me, what do you think of AI? Where do you see AI development? Do you think America's behind on AI development? Are you wary of AI development? What do you think?
That's $1 million question, Isaiah. I think we're in the AI arms race with China and a lot of other countries, and I don't think this will be a bubble like crypto or Web3, as we saw in 2021, because a lot of VCs, venture capital, they'll just invest in like 100 companies, let the 5-10% stay around. They'll make money off that. Let the 90% sizzle off. But I would say AI is kind of a national security concern. I don't know how much of that is an excuse for like a 1984 to roll out and more regulation and to have AI, control our life with social credit scores and stuff. I don't want that. I'm kind of more of a libertarian approach with AI. Like, I tend to be optimistic for the future. I work with it a lot, work with a lot of different startups that are moving very fast, probably faster than they should be. But, I think it's important to be aware of it. And like, as humans, we develop taste in music and fashion and basically anything. I think the same will be with AI and how we use it. and how we kind of specialize with it. It's definitely taking and changing white collar jobs. I know a few people have like 4 jobs, but are just using AI to get the work done, get 4 times the salary. And I think people will be replaced by AI and people using AI. And I guess if you don't use it or are as aware, you'll probably be behind in some aspects.
Mhm.
Blue collar is safe for a long time, great way to make money. And, coming from the Midwest, I have an appreciation for blue collar work and the craftsmanship that goes into it, hard work and grit. So that's kind of my perspective on AI. I don't like the surveillance side of it,
Mhm.
the lack of privacy, the intrusion on our rights, AI data centers without city council approval, people getting paid off to build this. I'm not for any of that. So I want it to benefit the citizens, less on the corporations and less on, the government surveillance and however they want to use it. So,
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think, I am talked a lot about, my issues with government surveillance, and we know they're spying on civilians. They say, "Oh
yep.
no, no, we're not spying on civilians. We're not doing any of that." I think Representative Dan Crenshaw, one of our
Yep.
favorite, our one-eyed John McCain, he had a podcast episode the other day with a couple of congressmen, and he was like, "Oh no, we're not spying on American citizens. We don't do that. We would never do such a thing." Except for the fact that the Patriot Act actually,
Yep.
emboldened the government to go and do things like that. But the government, look, trust the government. They would never
Just
do
trust
something
them.
like spy on it. Yeah, exactly. Just trust Big Brother. He wouldn't do anything like that to you.
Yeah, of
And
course,
so,
they'd never do such a thing.
absolutely, absolutely. So if I'm ever elected to Congress or anything of that sort, I'd love to introduce legislation to protect the privacy of American citizens and stop
You've got my
government
vote,
overreach.
Isaiah.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Stop government overreach and
Mhm.
block the government from using AI and other tools like that to spy on American citizens. Because I know ChatGPT
Yep.
specifically, you have to be careful what you tell ChatGPT. You have to be careful, what conversations you have with ChatGPT, because ultimately they collect data on that. They know what you said. They can pull from that. And ultimately, what I worry about is, the government going to these companies and saying, create me a profile on this person or that person, whoever, based on their searches, based on what they've said to your AI chatbot. And then ultimately the government can create a profile and decide what are your strengths and your weaknesses. Where in East Germany, communist East Germany, back in the 1960s, 70s, and 80s, they had a
Mhm.
police state, and the secret police in the East Germany was probably one of the most fearsome that has ever existed on the face of the planet.
Yep.
And they would go around and they would watch the individual, and and they would create a profile. Just they wouldn't go to you and send you off to a labor camp. Usually they're not going to beat you like the
Yep.
KGB would. No. They're
Sure.
going to watch you, and they're going to break you psychologically, because they can figure out what your psychological strengths and weaknesses are. So I think that this is a way, I think, for the US government to do the same thing to her citizens, but
Yep.
without having to chill out and watch them and survey them and try not to get caught while doing it too.
I mean,
So
it's funny how all the tech bros switched sides when Trump got in office, and all the gifts they gave him, and all the contracts and investments signed with AI. And also, I think it's important to note states don't have individual rights over their like AI
mhm.
regulation. It's a federal mandate. Yeah, I think that's definitely concerning for sure, because
Mhm.
states' rights. I'm a big believer in states' rights, and kind of the decentralization of power to keep the federal government in check. So yeah, it's definitely concerning.
Yeah, we may have slight disagreements on that. I'm more of a federalist.
Sure.
I'm not. I'm very much a federalist. I think ultimately I do believe in states' rights. I
Yep.
believe there's a balance to be had there.
For
But
sure.
I probably would believe in a bit of a stronger government than you do.
That's
Um,
fair.
and it's fine, as long as you're not an individual coming in here saying, the states have no right to do anything. The federal government tramples over everything. No, 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 no,
Yep.
no. Yes, federal law trumps state law. That's
Yep.
why these ICE agents, they're saying, oh, we're gonna pass these laws. We're gonna keep ICE out. You can't do that. It's federal law.
Yep.
But I see what
Exactly.
you're saying there. But do you think that AI is going to take over the world? Do you think AI is going to end us all?
I've when the files were released, went right to Revelations. And from what I've seen and talked to, and I think AI could possibly be the mark of the beast. I don't like to prophesize, but you can't really prevent or predict prophecy, and I understand the importance of that. Um, but as humanity, we're coming at this intersection where we're trying to live forever. AI biopharmaceutical companies are exploding. Bezos, I think Elon, they have a lot of separate funds for this where they pour a lot of money into this. Having a chip in your right hand or head, I mean, Neuralink could be that. You won't be able to buy or sell without these devices. So I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't say I can predict it, but I wouldn't be surprised if, it leads to a complete surveillance state. Because it already seems like that's kind of happening on the pathway to do that. So
Yeah.
I don't know if it's something I can really reverse or anyone at this point.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think you can reverse it. I'm ultimately a believer in the people, and I'm a believer in the United States.
I love that. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, so ultimately, I
spirit.
believe that it can be stopped. Of course, I'm as stubborn as a mule, and so, of course,
No,
I
that's a
believe
good
it can be
thing. That's not a
stopped.
bad thing.
But ultimately, yeah, I would agree. I think that it's a very much a danger. I don't know if I'd go so far as to call it the mark of the beast. Of course, I usually don't speculate on those things.
Yep.
But nevertheless, I do think that it could, like you said, lead to a surveillance state. I think you could see a creation of a police force similar to that in East Germany that preys on the tries to psychologically break the people
Yep.
of the United States and their victims. So I want to go to your kind of political philosophy and kind of what your journey in your political philosophy was. We talked about how you got into politics and that nature.
hmm
Talked about AI, but I want to get to like your own philosophy personally when it
Sure.
comes to politics. So how what was your kind of growth in political philosophy and your political ideology? What changed? What stayed the same? And kind of what was your journey like?
That's that's the question I really want to get on here and talk about because like I think I can relate to a lot of people in their journey, especially growing up as Christian conservative. I first started off, I was heavily in the MAGA, make America great again. Voted for Trump and really want to see a shift in this country, bring back jobs, manufacturing. I think most of the Midwest wanted that, and just secure borders. I think that was really important for the sovereignty of our country. Um, I would say in the past, I guess for basis, I've always been inspired by, you know, I guess Thomas Massey. He's up there on the list. Rand Paul. I do like a lot of the libertarians as well, and people who can work on both sides of the aisle. Um, and I think after the files were released, I kind of took a step back, and I think left and right is kind of a show a lot of the time because they each have their own kryptonite, and
Mm.
we kind of have to sell your soul in one way or the other. Like one side supports abortion, but the one side supports the whole Israel Gaza war, and I think it's important for the Republicans to be truly American first and articulate on those points. You can't just say you're an anti-Semite if you don't agree with this. I mean, that's what we fought against the left for was,
Mhm.
this double standard. And I think they're going to lose most of their support. I don't think the midterms, I think it's not going to go very well for MAGA. So I think both the left and right have been infiltrated. I don't really trust either side. So leaning more independent now. I'd like to vote again and have faith in a side, but at the end of the day, I kind of look up, see who's pulling the strings. Don't blame a lot of people for what they do or how they handle politics, and realize there's just a lot more going on than what most of society knows or can even understand or fathom.
Absolutely, absolutely, yeah, and I completely understand that. I, of course, am a registered Republican. When I run for
Mhm.
office, I'm going to run as a Republican because I mean, the party's the closest to our values, and I think
Yep,
that
absolutely.
I think grabbing hold of that party and reforming it is probably our best bet at this point. And we could try
Totally
to make
agree.
the Democrats conservative again, but I don't think that's going to work
Yeah,
at this point.
probably not.
Unless you have a massive, massive event, I don't think that's going to work. And so I think grabbing hold of the Republican Party and trying to reform it is our best bet.
Totally agree.
But yeah, I hear what you're saying. So, are you a Zionist? You're not a Zionist anymore. What was that journey
I'm
like?
not. Never have been really. So,
Never have been.
no, more American first. I either there's just a lot of manipulation going on. Not all Jews are, Zionists, but I think the right and TPUSA and a lot of Republicans, neocons have been, compromised completely ever since the 60s and 70s. Of course, it's been going on a very long time. Nixon even spoke out against this. So,
Absolutely.
I'm not, against any race or religion. But I think unnecessary wars, and I don't think it's in our best interest at this point. We're $38 trillion in debt. Probably going to default. China, Japan, a lot of countries are dumping the U.S. dollar.
Yeah,
Which is going to just skyrocket inflation. So I think we got bigger fish to fry in the meantime.
absolutely. Absolutely. And of course, my view to, or my way to fix the US dollar has always remained the same, which is, you have to back it by gold. You have to back it up by
Absolutely.
something again, by a precious
Great
metal.
minds think alike.
Yeah, exact. The gold
Totally
standard
for
is what we
that.
must return to. And so for the people at home, you don't know what the gold standard is. So when I talk about the gold standard, I'm talking about your dollar being backed by and being worth a certain amount of gold. And so theoretically, you can take it to a bank, say, take a dollar bill. Let's see, do I have a dollar bill here? I do. Okay.
You're all prepped.
Uncrumple this. Yeah, exactly. No, I didn't expect to talk about this actually.
I don't have the gold though, so.
There you go. So my banker can't give me gold. This is a bad bank. There's going to be a run on the bank. No, but anyway, so you could take this dollar, for instance, okay, and I can take it to my banker here, and I give it to him, and I say, give me what this is worth in gold. Now, because my banker's a bad banker, he doesn't have gold, and now I'm going to sue him. But nevertheless, if he was a good banker, he would give me presumably like a bar of gold, right? And so when your dollar is being backed by something, it's worth more. And so the government can't print as much when it's backed by something. The government can only print and circulate as much money as they have gold, as they have things to back it up. And so because of that, the value of this dollar right here is going to skyrocket, right? It's going to go back up. That's why Super Bowl tickets in 1967 cost $12. That's worth about $121 in today's money. But
Man,
what
$12
happened?
a ticket.
Yeah, I know. $12 a ticket for the Super Bowl is crazy. We'll get it back there, trust. Nevertheless, what happened started in the 1930s under Franklin D. Roosevelt, his administration. He implements the New Deal programs. He starts moving us off the gold standard because you see, to implement the New Deal programs, you have to be able to print more money. Well, Roosevelt couldn't print as much money as he needed to provide for these programs on the gold standard. So we moved to what's called the fiat currency. Fiat currency is the reason that this right here above here, this right above where it says United States of America on your dollar, it says Federal Reserve note. It didn't always say that. I forget what exactly it said.
Silver certificate. Yep.
Yeah, something like
that. The old ones. Yep.
Yeah, the old ones. So it used to say something else up here. But the reason it says Federal Reserve note is because it is under the fiat currency, that dollar is backed by just the word of the government. The Federal Reserve, and whoever its chair and head may be, tells you that this is worth $1. And because he tells you it's worth $1, this is not backed by anything. Because it's just backed by his word, this does not equal anything in any precious metal like gold or silver, anything of that nature. Right.
Doesn't help us, but for bank bailouts, they love
that.
For
bank bailouts, it works wonderful because you can just print more money. See, if it's just backed by by his word, then you can just print. Now, what happens when you print more money? The value of the dollar goes down. Inflation skyrockets because you can't just print endless money and expect it to remain the same in its worth. And so they needed that in order to pay for these benefits. Works well for bank bailouts, like you just said. And then Nixon pushed us the rest of the way off, which is one of the great failures of his administration. So you return to gold standard. Your dollar is going to be worth more. It's going to go farther. Prices are going to plummet across the board. Housing, grocery prices, etc. It's going to go way down. And the government is not going to be able to spend as much, which would incentivize, if I was president of the United States, and the dollar's not going as far, therefore I can't print as much. Therefore, guess what? Now I have to cut welfare programs. And in terms of the welfare programs, I have to cut the people off who are just leeching off of welfare. There's people who are net recipients. They're getting more from welfare than they're putting into the tax system, right? So you're going to have to cut some of that fraudulent spending, like for, drag queen shows in Puerto Rico. We're going to have to cut all that out. Several government departments are going to have to be shut down, and more power will have to be sent to the states. And thus, more power will be sent to the people. And also, I plan to cut the salaries of members of Congress and members of the government. They're making six figures. There's no reason that your congressman or woman should be making six figures. I mean, we could cut it down.
Insider trading, too.
Insider trading, too. We're going to put a ban on insider trading as well. But anyway, so you talked about your kind of conversion to kind of America Firstism, because you used to be MAGA. I used to be MAGA as
Yep.
well. I had a conversion to America Firstism.
Sure.
So was there one event that kind of triggered that for you? You talked about the files. Was that it, or was it something else?
I think I would say ever since Charlie Kirk, the unfortunate assassination,
Hmm.
I think a lot of people really start asking questions. What's going on behind the scenes? Who's really
Yeah.
pulling the strings? Is the FBI legitimate? Are they telling us the truth? We've been through this before with JFK, a lot of others, Martin Luther King, a lot of high profile figures just disappearing, being taken out. So,
In Minecraft, right?
oh yeah, it just does
Just in
Minecraft.
Minecraft. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like I think that's I started watching Tucker, Candace, a lot
Mhm.
of others, really opening my view and perspective. I think it's just important to ask questions, ever more so than now. Not take anything at face value or what someone says is true. I think you should really question everything at this point. After the files dropped and seeing who's pulling the strings and how they just talk about citizens and the unfortunate things they've done. It's like it just seemed less about left and right and more about us versus them, the citizens, really.
Right.
Because they control a lot of the media, a lot of different organizations. I read there's a lot of AI tools now where they can socially manipulate a lot of how you think, feel, can
Yeah.
predict how you think. I've done a lot of white paper research on like AI technology, and they have social engineers who are very good at doing this, very talented. I mean, they can build the best AI products in the world. And even listen to what you say. Like my phone's sitting right here. It's like, oh, I should probably just throw this out the window while I'm chatting about this,
Yeah, exactly.
But I'm on live,
Exactly.
so it's all good. It's like Bill O'Reilly. We'll just do it live.
Yeah, exactly. Well, see, what what I say oftentimes, I'm like, look, they don't want to kill me. It's actually to their detriment if they kill me, because I have said multiple
Yep.
times, I am not suicidal. I'm not depressed. Well, I am depressed sometimes, but it's okay. I,
Yep.
but I'm
Same
not
here.
suicidal. I'm not going to take my own life, so that if I do die, it wasn't me who did it. It was the government. And so it's actually to their
Yep.
detriment to try to take me out.
For
But I
sure.
would just like to reiterate for the FBI agent and the CIA agent listening into this episode tonight that I love the CIA. I love the FBI. J. Edgar Hoover
Yep.
actually is like my, father figure, kind of, sort of.
He's the goat.
He's the goat. He's my dead mentor. I'll erect a statue of him in my home. I
I should
just
do that
love
as
it.
too.
Yeah, I
That's a great
know.
idea,
You really
Isaiah. Yeah.
should. Listen, and what we're talking about, John F. Kennedy and Martin Luther King, like that's just all in Minecraft. Like this is just Minecraft lore. You probably haven't
Yep.
heard of it. It's the United States of Minecraft. It's just all
Just in the
a
game.
play.
So
It's just in a game. And please don't kill me. So anyway, going forward, what do you think is the future? And I've asked a lot of people this question. I've got a lot of different answers on this, and I have a different thoughts on this as well. What do you think is the future of the Republican Party? Do you think that they embrace sort of the right wing? I mean, the boomer establishment is kind of going out the door.
yep.
They'll begin to die off in 10 to 15 years. And so, and we're the next generation. So do they embrace us, or do they formally isolate us and kick us out? What do you think?
I would lean towards the latter. From what we've seen so far, I think a lot of young men will just stop voting entirely.
Mhm.
I do think Democrats will probably take power next presidential election and the midterms, unfortunately. I don't know how fast it's going to take for the Republicans to adapt, but they've been fighting tooth and nail over any change whatsoever. So I just see the two-party politics drama still playing out. I predict other countries will be farther ahead, and I think a lot of expats are going to move out, work online. I think Gen Z is just going to be very fragmented into bowing out of the system and not believing in it. The dollar's not worth anything. The banks artificially inflate car prices, housing prices,
Indeed.
like 1920s. What? Could buy a Model T brand new on a 2 month salary and pay off a house with a 5-year mortgage. You put
Mhm.
50% down, usually paid off in 2 years, raise a family, you're fine. You can't do that anymore. So, I see Gen Z being very versatile with AI, building startups, working in their own nomadic groups. I think that, it's going to be a very radically different future than what a lot of people foresee. But from the people I've worked with around the world, I've worked with a lot of people in India, Philippines, you name it, Europe. Gen Z's thinking is just totally different. And at the end of the day, most people just want to raise a family, pay bills. live a normal life, but it seems just becoming harder and harder to do that. And, currency's not going as far. Banks are hoarding up gold and silver. And then when the next crash comes, which I forecasted probably very soon, banks will smell blood in the water, buy up more homes, and, the cycle will continue. Like when they say at the WEF, you'll be happy and you'll own nothing, they mean it. And they are successfully doing that. Like back in March, I wanted to propose a, bill or fight with lawyers to take a case on contingency against the housing monopoly. But I'm like, they've got all the lawyers, Harvard educated lawyers, to fight anything they want. Like, probably got a team of 20 lawyers, drag you out 10 years, make you pay all this money. It's just like it wouldn't get anywhere. So, Gen Z lives minimally. Doesn't want a lot of physical things. They just want their money to go far. I can see a successful future with Republicans if they truly put America first. And I think the left and right could agree on some more things, move forward. But I don't have the most positive feelings about, the right moving forward and how they'll navigate this, because, it just seems like open minds, outside voices aren't really, as aspired for or hoped for. And not same on the left too. And I think a lot of people are just gonna not vote. Like a majority of the population doesn't even vote, period. So I think most people just are caring less and less.
What do you think it would take to get those people to vote?
Ooh, I'm a big fan of Fishback in Florida. I think very radical measures for family first. Listening to Gen Z. Keeping innovation and efficiency in the government that works for the people. No PAC money in the government. Lower salaries. No insider trading. No foreign wars. Just no corruption. Period. The swamp is like, it's like MAGA thought they were voting against the swamp and they just voted for another swamp.
Voted for another swamp creature.
Yeah. So it's like, wow, it's like waking up from a bad dream.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And that's sort of thing. You need candidates who are young, energetic, who are not bought off, who are not willing to be bought off, who are stubborn, and will go into office, whichever office it may be, and do the will of the people and do as the people have asked them. And
Absolutely.
So that's why you may or may not be getting an announcement from me on electoral politics soon. You may or may not get an announcement soon.
Sure.
But we'll leave that there. But anyway, going forward with, do you think, so I've heard the theory, and I've proposed the theory possibly, that if the Republicans kick out the youth base, which it looks like they are just bound and determined to do at this point, do you see a future where you have a Democratic candidate who, maybe a younger guy, who looks at the Republicans and what they're doing to the America First base and says, you know what, I guarantee, or I bet that I can get a Democratic majority for 20 to 30 years if I, let's say, will be liberal on economics, which I'm already moderate to liberal on economics.
Yep.
And I'll be conservative. I'll move to the right on social policy, on immigration, things like that. Do you see a future where that could possibly happen? Because if that happens, I mean, you will have a Democratic majority for our entire lifetime.
That's actually a really insightful question. And I've heard this a few times. I've always thought deeply about that answer because, it's kind of hard when like you have left and right shifting. And it kind of beats the facade of like the two-party system and what you can stand for. But yeah, I see more independence winning in the future. Being very popular. Like I think Rand Paul is surging in popularity now, and Thomas Massie, even Ro Khanna, who's a Democrat. I think I'm going to see or predict both the left and right finding more common ground, possibly. And I see a lot of people, some people in Congress waking up and realizing it's just not always left versus right. But the wealthy families, I think there's 13, a lot don't even know them, Rothschilds, et cetera, who are pulling a lot of our strings and controlling a lot of the populace. And yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if someone on the left adopted more conservative policies and, would start winning. I do see a socialist shift too within our generation. Not a fan of that. With Mamdani, Wisconsin, next governor of Wisconsin for the Democrats is running as an open socialist too.
Mhm.
Just more, and it seems like they get in and don't fulfill any of the promises anyways. So yeah, I think the person who can work with both sides and takes a more American first approach, no matter if you're left and right, will easily take the cake,
Absolutely.
in most elections.
Absolutely. I completely agree. And that's my method. Like I said, I'm economically moderate to liberal. I'm conservative on social policy. I kind of just am that figure. And ultimately, I want to fight for not a red or blue America, but for just America as a whole, for everyone in the United States. And ultimately, I believe that at this point, you can have two options when you talk about socialism. You have two options in regards to what happens in the future with economic policy in the United States. Either you're going to have, because the economic system itself is just completely broken. So
It's a
you're
train
either
wreck.
exactly. It reminds me of the early 1900s, late 1890s, towards the end of the Gilded Age. You have a very similar thing going on. You have a few wealthy billionaires who have all the wealth in their hands, and everybody else is getting screwed over. There was a lot of talk about socialism during that time in American history. Now there's a lot about talk about socialism nowadays. Power is concentrated in the hands of a few wealthy people. I think ultimately what you're going to have is either Fidel Castro's going to come in and he's going to destroy the entire system and he's going to fix the economy, and that actually ends up just as bad, if not worse, for the American people, because then it's you replaced a bad system with another bad system, another corrupt system. Or you're going to have Theodore Roosevelt come in and fix the economy.
I'm a big fan of Theodore Roosevelt.
I'm a big fan of Theodore
King
Roosevelt.
Trust Buster. Yep.
Exactly. And so the only way that the American system, I think, survives is a Theodore Roosevelt figure rising through the ranks of either the Republican or Democratic Party. At this point in time, it seems more likely he'll rise up through the ranks of the Republican Party. Possibly he could be a Democrat, though. But you have to have a Theodore Roosevelt-like figure who rises up and who gets into power and busts up these trusts, man, and goes after these big businesses and the corrupt organizations and the corrupt banks.
I'm looking at my Teddy book right now. It's my favorite book on the shelf, The Last Romantic. So I don't know if you've read that bio. It's great, and for his time, he's really revolutionary. Fought in the army, traveled all over the world, and he was liked by a lot of people because he's like, they call him like the King Trust Buster. Like he would go against any bank, any major corporation, even like a lot of factories all over who just weren't following regulations, forming monopolies. Creating the famous Antitrust Act. He did a lot of really good things for the American people. We kind of need a fighter like that with grit, who's got a great spirit. Someone with politicians, like they're not really. It doesn't seem like most are creative. Someone like with a good spirit and heart. You can feel it on someone, and a lot of people felt that at the time with Teddy. Like unknown before with any politician.
Absolutely. And he was conservative on economic policy until he got to the state legislature of New York and he saw what was going on. He was able to go around, visit with the unions and visit these factories, and he saw what was going on, completely shifted his economic theory after seeing that firsthand. And that's why, and I call myself a Rooseveltian on economic policy.
Love that.
And I firmly go along with his economic policy. I think we need to go after these businesses. We need to go after Wall Street. And, but anyway, so I think we do need a Theodore Roosevelt type figure. I'm not saying that it would be me. I don't know that it would be me. I'm a bit hard. I have a hardline stance on social issues that may turn a lot of people off to me. Although I think that a lot of people in American society, broader American society, are going to start caring less and less about the label of fascist and racist and Nazi. And they believe this thing, it's going to be repressive to women. They're going to get rid of abortion. I think we're going to reach a point in American society where you will have people on the left voting for people who are actively saying, yeah, I'm going to abolish abortion simply because the economic issues are going to be more important. The economic strain is going to be more important. I think, and because they're anti-establishment, that's part of what I see going forward, and part of my calculation, and
for sure, I can see that too.
Possibly running for office one day, is going and appealing to some of these left wingers who may go to the ballot box on election day and say, you know what, I don't agree with some of his social policy, but he's anti-establishment. He's going to go after the corrupt elites. He's going to bust up the big businesses and the big banks. And I'm from North Carolina. I'm from the Charlotte area. There's a lot of that corruption going on right next door in Charlotte. Happening. And so they'll say he's going to go against establishment. He's going to throw these people in prison. He's going to bust up the big banks, bust up the big businesses. He's going to make life more affordable. You know what? I don't agree with everything, but I'm going to check that box. I'm going to vote for him because he's going to do this. I think you're going to see a lot more of that. What do you think on that?
Yeah, I think so too. But at the same time, I feel like we heard Trump say that a lot, and I just feel like a lot of the economic truth doesn't point to a growing America. Definitely declining. BRICS is already out. Dumping the U.S. dollar, Bitcoin is established. Crypto is changing funds like rapidly before, and I think people are going to look for like paradise elsewhere. I mean, the expats, people are moving out of America like never before. Even families going overseas, like love the culture. We have a lot of material wealth here, but we're not culturally wealthy, And I think when I traveled to the Philippines for a month, it really opened my eyes on how really unified people are and what people are missing here.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people just feel lonely here, like they have no culture to connect to. I think even more important than family is a culture that incentivizes it, and that's there within the country. We got so many different cultures; it's kind of hard to feel unified in a sense. And that really opened my perspective when I did some traveling for sure. And I feel like, to your point, if you say you're going to be against the banks and antitrust, whatever, I think people stop believing it less and less if they keep hearing it over and over and seeing nothing done about it.
Mm-hmm.
But if you truly run on it and mean it, I think people would totally be for that.
Absolutely.
Like with MAGA too in the housing market, Trump said we're not going to lower the prices for people who worked hard. But banks own most mortgages, so you're just saving the banks. You're just keeping their asset prices high, so you can have people who rent for 30, 40 years, never own a piece of property or land. Everyone knows he's protecting the banks. It's like, what a slap in the face for him to say that,
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And he's like, we're going to keep the home value high. We're going to keep the prices up. He, in one breath,
Love the accent.
Yeah, thank you. In one breath, 2 weeks before he says, we're going to go get Blackstone. I'm going to stop them from buying up these homes. And then he's like, we're going to keep the prices high. And so I'm like, okay, you can't have your cake and eat it too. Like you're going to have it one way or the other. What I think is happening is I think there's a lot of these rich people who are in his ear. You see, I mean, he's bought and paid for by this point. He just is bought and paid for. And so a lot of these people are in his ear. Charlie Kirk, I think, was the only man. Kind of the regular guy who could go in and say, hey, you don't need to be doing this. This is what you need to do. And Charlie Kirk told him shortly before his death that he's risking losing all the ground, the ground that they had gained with young people. And I think that's totally and wholly true. And I think that if you push young people to a certain point, I think a lot of young men are going to start looking for more radical options. They screamed fascist, they screamed Nazi for so many years. But I think that if you keep screaming that and you keep not doing what you say you're going to do, you keep faltering on your promises, I think you will see a Caesar, an American Caesar, rise up. Ultimately, I think right now we're looking for a Cincinnatus, a man who will go in there, will push people around, and will get the job done, and then will voluntarily lay down power and will retire and go on, and the system will go back to running how it's supposed to. But if the Cincinnatus option does not work, then I think you're going to see a Caesar.
Yep. Yeah, I can see that coming. I mean, even in World War II, like a lot of that was ran off the banks, and I think the Germany just basically told the central banks to screw you, we're going to create our own currency. I think their economy completely surged, families completely surged, and people are just being done toyed around by the banks and the families that run the world, who've been running the world for hundreds, if not thousands of years.
Absolutely, absolutely. Such as the Rothschilds and the Rockefeller Foundation, both of those families, the Rockefellers and the Rothschilds, I mean, they funded feminist propaganda. And people don't realize that. People don't realize that feminism was actually always been very unpopular when it was coming up. But they funded all this propaganda and pushed it in the newspapers, pushed it in the media spaces so that people who were against it felt like the minority, and they would just go along with it because they perceived it as the majority. It was a total, psyop.
100%. Yeah, it totally was. I mean, a man could support a family, one job, even a factory job, wherever really. And, and there's a balance between men and women. One loved staying at home and, taking care of the family. And, the guy would go out and work, and it was a great balanced system. And then banks, corporations got greedy, and, it's like, well, we can send your kids to a public school as daycare while both parents work. And then, we'll just indoctrinate your kids. And it seems like a better plan for us.
Yeah, right. And John D. Rockefeller. See, in years, decades past, and centuries past, the point of education, which our educational system is founded on the Puritan idea of education, they had to educate their children because then they couldn't read the Bible. If you can't read the Bible, you can't
Hmm.
get saved. So everything revolved around the Christian religion, and everything in the United States revolved around, and in the West as a whole, revolved
Yeah.
around the Christian religion. And so in years past, our education system was meant to build to create intelligent and virtuous and honest young men, to create statesmen. Essentially, that's the whole point, to create statesmen. We don't have statesmen in the United States, or very few of them who are actually politicians. Most of our
Yeah.
politicians are actually, theater kids who got mad because they got bullied in school, and so they run for office and then become politicians to get the validation that they never had. And the problem with having theater kids run our government rather than actual statesmen is they're going to be petty and they're going to be stupid. And our
Yeah.
our elites are very arrogant, but they're also quite stupid and they're quite
Yeah.
ignorant.
If you'd call them elites.
Hey, can't call it. Well, see,
Yeah.
they that's what I often say. They hold the title of an elite.
Yeah.
They hold the positions of the elites, but I think they also get very angry and upset because they realize now it's like I always say, it's like the cheerleader, like the fat girl who becomes a cheerleader, but it doesn't
Yeah.
make her popular like she thinks it's going to. They get angry because these positions, in and of themselves, the title of congressman does not make you respected, does not make you
Nope.
famous, does not make you important. It's the man who holds the title of congressman. There's a reason that Thomas Massey is
Spot
probably
on.
the most famous congressman
Yep.
in the United States of America. It's not because he holds the title of representative. It's because of the name. It's because of Thomas Massey in and of himself as a man, and who he is. And so, George Washington wasn't famous because he held the title, and he wasn't respected because he held the title of general in chief or a
Yep.
commander of the American Army or president of the United States. No, no, no. It's because George Washington in and of himself was a great man. It's the same thing with, Alexander Hamilton or Andrew Jackson or Theodore Roosevelt.
Hmm.
All these, you can't tell me, most of the American people cannot tell me half of who the presidents are. And there's a reason for that. The title of president doesn't make them famous. It's the man who carried the mantle. And so
Very true.
I think that's what a lot of our elites miss at first, and then they realize it, and they get angry, and they're vindictive, and they're hateful, and ultimately they seek vengeance against the American people because we don't view them as this, shining beacon, this savior figure. So anyway, and a lot of the people in government just do get in there because they want power and prestige. And they
A lot of them know what they're doing too. They Ivy graduated. They know all the loopholes, pipelines. Certain
Absolutely.
families to go to. It's a game once you get down to it and see. Oh, well, he went to Harvard and you're in this society, and okay, if I climb this ladder, then I'll network with this politician, and then connect with the lobbyists and lawyers, and everyone besides the American citizen. So
Right. I'm gonna buy my seat rather than I'm gonna win votes for it. And
yep.
it's like this idea of, I'll connect with this politician, that guy, this lobbyist, this, that lobbyist. So then when I do run for office, I don't have to appeal to the American people. I'll just buy the election.
Yeah.
Whereas me, if I run for office, I'm going straight to the people. I am a man of the people. I don't have many connections, actually. I have a few
Hmm.
people who know some people, but I don't have many connections. I'm just one of the people. I struggle with the same economic burdens and hardships, and
Hmm.
I'm experiencing the same cultural and moral collapse in the United States that everyone else is seeing. And so I have to go to the people to get my
Yep.
position. And that's what statesmen
That's how
for
it should be.
years. Yeah, exactly. That's what statesmen years and years past. That is the mark of a statesman. He cares more about the people than himself. And like I said, a Cincinnatus type figure. But anyway,
Hmm.
moving on to you talked about the midterms. Let's talk about the midterms for a moment. We'll
Yep.
get into the scandal with Tony Gonzalez. 6 people watching right now. Thank you guys so much. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe, and leave a comment, leave a question in the comment section. Any question you have, we'll be answering that after we go through the Tony Gonzalez, sorry, not Tony Gollins, but Tony Gonzalez situation in Texas. But I want to ask you about the midterms. So you talked
Yep.
about how you think that's going to be rough for Republicans. Why do you think that? And ultimately, what do you think the results will be on election night?
So I believe that because I talked to all my friends, and they're like, well, Republicans are neocons, most of them, if not all. And I'm like, yeah, I agree with you. And we're kind of like most of my friends all have the sentiment, we're not even going to vote. Like, you
Yeah.
guys left us, we voted a swamp for another swamp. The Adelsons funded a lot of whole things we didn't agree to. We don't want to be a part of it. And of course, we're not going to vote for the left either, but we're just going to bow out. That's pretty much the whole base of the Republicans is young Gen Z men, and you pretty much just swept the rug right under them. And liberals always vote liberal. Doesn't matter who's in or what it is. They're all they band
Vote blue
together
no matter
like
who.
no other. Yeah, exactly. So, and it would be different if they're open to us asking these important questions and going against the lobbies and APAC and establishments that APAC funds both left and right. So
Yeah, exactly.
that's kind of the whole who's pulling the strings above type example. But yeah, that's why I don't have a lot of hope for the midterms, and I see probably a blue wave sweeping. It's like, well, how do you keep your integrity if you vote for one side or the other? And the system knows this. The families know this. The banks know this. It's all a game. Like even probably the files being released at that time. Who knows? Like, I don't take anything at face value. I mean, I think it's good released. I think all of them should be released, as well as the 9/11 files, etc.
You'll never get
But I know, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, dropped a truth bomb there. We'll censor that out later. No. But, I mean,
I don't think Bush did 9/11. Let's be very clear on that. I don't think Bush did 9/11. Please don't come to my dorm. Don't be knocking on my dorm. Please don't. I don't. There's a window right behind me. A clear line to my
same
head.
here.
Listen. Look. Obviously, Al Qaeda did it, and no one else was involved in any way. So just don't come after me. Yes, thank you. Okay, keep going.
Same here. So, I mean, I don't think it's going to be a good period. I think a lot of young conservative men know that in their hearts. They're like, yeah, this just isn't going to work. Like, period. And I don't know, like how. I don't see a way forward with this unless things radically change. And then you see the whole system, both left and right, is kind of like corrupt in and of itself, just in different ways. And it's like, oh, they just appeal to us because we're Christians, but they don't really believe. Like,
you don't really believe
their
it.
Pockets lined, like they just pick a side. And most of the left and right collaborate anyways. Like they go to the same dinners, same schools, same friends, get money from the same people. So it's like, why would I vote for you?
Right. I've heard horror stories. When I went to AmFest, did you go to AmFest this year?
No.
No, you did not. He stayed away. He was scared of the Zionists.
A little bit, yeah.
I'll be there next year, by the way, guys. I already got my ticket, so maybe they'll I'll be outside the event, and I was like, whoa, Mr. LaFone, you're not welcome.
Yeah, you can't come in. I mean, we love your show and all, but like, I'm sorry, man. Maybe next year.
Was it what I said about the Jew? No, I'm kidding. Was it because I called for the rest of Benjamin Netanyahu in Minecraft? I mean, come on, guys.
Yeah, really. I mean, it was just Minecraft.
It was just Minecraft. It was just a joke. Everything. It was all a prank, bro. At 3 a.m. No, but anyway, yeah. So at AmFest this year, I met a guy at an event with Nico Delgado, who's runs like a pack in Arizona.
Okay.
I think he's a cool guy. I don't know much of what his political philosophy actually is. He's a younger guy. He might be an establishment plant. I'm not even sure. Yeah. He has called out Breland Hollyhand in the past, so that's a good sign. But yeah, that's the broader issue, and I'm writing an article about that right now called "The Party's Interest Come First," and it's about all these different influencers who are clearly Republican plants. By the way, they're clearly to sell you kind of a watered down America First conservatism because the youth are getting too radical, so we have to chill it out a little bit. And people like Taylor Sharp, Teen Conservative, Danny, Lily Farrow, Zay, all these people, and like the manufactured attack on Taylor Sharp's the manufactured attacks have been hilarious. By the way, I've loved to see that because I'm watching. Like we'll watch this next week, guys. I'll be live from South Carolina for the PFTK conference, but we'll watch this next week. But there was Taylor Sharp was purportedly attacked. I say purportedly because this is the fakest thing that I've ever seen in my life. I'm watching this man. This woman's not even touching his friend Zay, and he's like, "Don't touch him, don't touch him," and she like attacks him and drags him down the street. And I'm like, okay, first of all, either this is staged or this is an incredibly weak man. Like, goodness gracious, hit the gym, dude. But like, he can't drag this liberal white woman off of him. And so he finally throws her off in this like sick move that he does. I'm like, what the flip was that? Like, in the moment, bro, was like, what is this, Marvel, dude? Like, what am I?
They might as well hold the script. Like, where's the director?
Exactly.
Like, just
am
show
I
us the
supposed
director,
to believe this really? And he like throws her off, and most people when they're in a altercation. They're like, stop. They repeat things
Oh yeah.
over and over. It's human nature. We get stressed. We just start repeating phrases. This man points at her while skipping backwards, like we're doing like the cha-cha slide or
There's a
something
slide
like
there.
that. Dude, he's doing the cha-cha slide, and like he points at her, he's like, "Stay away from me now!" And the voice is exactly like that. It's so funny because I'm like, this is so fake, dude. Like, you're a terrible actor, like Mr. Sharp. I hope you're watching this show. Like, I hope you come back on. You never will, but I hope you come back on. And you never will because I destroyed you and all your credibility because
Or
you're
faking a McDonald's hamburger, man.
Yeah, for real, dude. Like, bro, for real, dude. Like, he is a know nothing. Like, bro said James Madison wrote the Declaration of Independence. And anyway, this is our next Charlie Kirk, guys. But nevertheless, like, he's stay away from me now. And Zay, and like no one on the sidewalk does anything. That's why I'm like, come on, like,
Yeah.
somebody's gonna do. Zay, this guy, his friend, like, just stands there and watches it happen. Which, like if we're walking down the street, you're being attacked, like, I'm gonna fight for you. Like, I'm gonna drag the guy. Like, hey, get away from that. Like, we're gonna fight him off.
He's not a very good actor. I work with a lot
just
of
like
directors.
stands
I'm
there
like,
with his
maybe I'll hire
microphone,
you.
like, he's like, and then he walks away and he smirks and smiles as he walks away. And I'm like, dude, no way.
No way.
No way, dude. My bro turns, walks away, goes, I'm like, dude. And then like within like 20 minutes, there's this like statement released from the national like high school conservatives, and they're like, the diabolical attack upon Taylor Sharp is unacceptable. We will be pressing charges. And then purportedly there was another attack, and we're going to be pressing charges. I'm like, okay, bro. Like, listen, he gets up in these people's grill and he finds the stupidest one so he can clip them, and then he gets attacked purportedly, and we're pressing charges. We're making an example, and he literally said in his announcement, FAFO.
Oh, for real?
Yeah, bro. The bro's ending to this was, fuck around and find out. Like, what the hell, dude? Like, what?
That's bananas, man. Like, it's like the plants on our side are making us look like almost worse or just as bad as like what the left does. Like, this is like, what? Like,
yeah, dude, it's preposterous. Like,
I would have never foresaw any of this coming, man. Yeah, this is insane.
These people are not real. Like, he told me his story on the podcast. He was like, yeah, I got into this event with like Charlie Kirk, and I got to meet him there, and that's where it started. And I was like, how'd you get into said event? Your dad? Oh, your dad. You don't have a dad. You're single. You have a single mother. How'd you get into this event again? And so my view on a lot of these people is I guarantee you what happened was the Republican Party came and said, look, the Goyim are going insane.
Oh, yeah.
The Goyim are noticing, and the Goyim have to stop noticing. So I brought him on here, and I asked him about the Israel thing. And he says, yes, AIPAC is destroying America. We're having an Israeli-occupied government. I'm like, that's all you have to say? Yeah. What about the fact that Jewish organizations like the ADL pushed for the Hart-Celler Act of 1965? What about the fact that the idea of America as a melting pot was invented by a Jewish elite who is from Israel, literally named Israel? So, we don't have anything to say about that. No. Just AIPAC. Just a generic answer about AIPAC. I picked up on that. That's great.
Just all the fluff.
Just yeah, exactly. That's why I will never. If I ever start like taking my words back on like Jewish billionaires or the elites in general, I've been paid.
You're bought out.
Yeah, I'm bought out. I'm bought out, dude.
Just like what's his name, Dave Chappelle.
Dave Chappelle,
kind of funny skit. He's like, yeah, if we need a code word, if y'all know I got bought out, he's like, I stand with Israel. And everyone just laughing.
Yeah, I'm gonna get elected one day to Congress, and the next day I'm just posting, I stand with Israel. We need to bomb Iran. We need to send another $30 billion to Israel.
I almost got a nuclear weapon. It's only been 40 years, but they're 2 weeks away.
WMD stuff, like it's just like Iraq part 2. We're not doing this again, but
yeah.
No, but anyway, I don't even remember what we were talking about because we were just going on about the
the script. Obviously, the plans and
no.
It's kind of like humiliating that it's like, wow, is this really what it's come down to? It's like
do you really think we're this stupid?
Yeah.
Like after everything that the government has done since the 1960s, the 50s, they were too busy overthrowing governments in America to really care. And then in the 60s, John F. Kennedy dies, and I'm guarantee you that the CIA had something involved to do with his killing
Oh
in
yeah.
Minecraft.
Yep.
Then Richard Nixon, we've released some of the files from the Watergate scandal. It's clear that he was set up and did nothing wrong
Yep.
in Minecraft. And, it just keeps going on. LBJ, the cover up with the Vietnam War going on. LBJ passes the Hart-Celler Act. Oh, it's not going to replace the native population. Now look at what's happening. America was a 90% white country. And
Now it's like what, 50 or 60?
9% or actually it's
Okay.
less than that now. But
Yeah.
90% like 1950, and then now we're into the 50s percentile, and we've got
The Great Replacement.
Yeah, exactly. It was a theory. It was a conspiracy theory, a couple years ago. Now it's just fact. As John
Conspiracy
Kennedy,
truths. Yeah.
as Senator John Kennedy from Louisiana said, we're gonna have to come up with new conspiracy theories because all the old ones turned out to be true. The
He's like,
conspiracy,
oh yeah,
yeah,
37-0 now.
37-0 now. Yeah, dude, we're all the way up right now. But anyway,
He's got the best quotes. Like,
he
I don't know
does,
what that
dude.
guy reads, or like, I don't know
I'm
what
going
he's
to have
watching,
to.
but
I'm gonna have to read his book. He wrote a book called "How to Test Negative for Stupid" and Why Washington Never Will. I'm gonna have to read that book. Like, oh
sounds
my
like
God.
a good book.
It
Yeah.
sounds like a great book. Like, dude,
The
I can't
one-liners
wait-
you could get from that book, dude.
Oh man, dude, I can't wait to be an old man where I can just say whatever I've seen and not care. Like, bro's
Same,
like, I'm
man.
telling you how the Senate actually works. I'm like, I can't wait to be old and just let everything loose. Like, this is great.
Oh yeah, no cares in the world.
Exactly. Like, if you're gonna come get me, like, fine. I'm like 80.
Yep.
I don't care.
I'm going out in style.
Yeah, exactly. I'm going out in style instead of just dying on my bed at home. But nevertheless, we have that issue with the plants in the Republican Party, and like I said,
Yeah.
we won't get fooled again. We're not stupid. We're not stupid enough to fall for this.
And even if we both vote left and right, I think the amount of bills, red tape we have, and who's pulling the strings, I don't think it'll even make much of a difference. Like, American meritocracy always shifts very dramatically. You have to move the goalpost to contain a controlled civilization, right? So like, going to college 20 years ago was impressive. Being a doctor, now it's moving to San Francisco, building a startup because money, technology has changed so fast. It's hard for a lot of the citizens to even keep up with it, myself included. It's going to be like, I'm going to get to the point where a new, AI software phone update comes out. It's like, I don't even want to deal with it anymore. Just like,
Yeah,
I'll just live like I was in the 1920s, like not a care in the world. But
exactly.
that's how they could control populations, of course. Like the files were released. Okay, what else don't we know? Like, it's like there's this conspiracy chart. It's like the files are just like a small piece. I don't know if you've ever seen it. Like it's like 2 feet big. It's like, no way. Like,
Yeah.
how long have you been played?
Whoa, our world is run by satanic pedophiles. What else is new?
Yep.
And I love how in Europe people are going to prison, people are getting arrested.
I know nothing's happening here.
Nothing's happening here. Kash Patel has been a good little goy for the establishment and the elites. Whoever ends up pulling the string, because like I've said multiple times, America is run like a slave plantation. We are all slaves.
Absolutely.
And our politicians, I used to call them the plantation masters. They're actually not the plantation masters. They're the
No.
slave drivers and the overseers. They're the useful idiots for whoever is the plantation masters. And I think we have a hint of who that is in the Epstein files. Elite, some of the elites who are actually running society. And I'm not saying that it's all Jewish people. I don't think it's all Jewish people. I think that it's some of them are Jewish, like the Rothschilds, but there are more people than just the Jewish people.
Yep.
And so I think focusing our target solely on Jewish people is actually what they want us to do. They want us to be anti-Semitic. They want us to go
a label.
Those people. Right, exactly. They can give us a label. They want us to go after just these people so the rest of them get off scot-free.
Absolutely.
And so, formally, I believe that the only difference between the Republicans and the Democrats is how hard they crack the whip on the bruised back of the American people. And so ultimately, who the plantation masters are, don't really know exactly. I can't really name names. We're getting hints. We're starting to it's like a stained glass window where like you can't, the pieces are taken out.
Yeah, there's so many.
You can't see the picture that's being made, but once they all put together, the picture makes complete and total sense and everything connects. I think we'll get to that point. I think it'll probably be too late for us to actually inflict consequences on these people. I think we can inflict consequences on their businesses and whoever are running their businesses and corporations, but I think we won't be able to inflict consequences on the individual. The best that
True.
we can do is make sure that this never happens again and honor the legacy of the victims and the people who were exploited by these people.
Yep.
So that's kind of my opinion on that. And I'd just like to say again, for the CIA and the FBI, this is all in Minecraft. I'm not a threat to the system at all. I would never, ever, ever, want to, like John F. Kennedy, break the CIA apart and cast them into the wind. No.
Yep.
I wouldn't do that. Please don't put me in an open top
Same
car
here.
in Dallas. Yeah, exactly. All right, so let's get into the issue with Mr. Tony Gonzalez right quick. As you can see, I'm pulling this up here. Let's pull this up here. Wyatt, you've got a fan here.
Oh, sweet. Oh, it's my buddy. What's up, Luke? Thanks for tuning in, man. Super appreciate it.
Awesome.
You're the GOAT, man.
7 people watching right now. Make sure to like and subscribe and share this video and put your questions in the comment section. We're going to go over the issue with Tony Gonzalez, congressman, and his affair, and his race against Brandon Herrera, America First congressman. Looks like the first wave of true America First congressmen being elected, and so that's huge for us. So put your questions in the comment section. We'll get to them in the moment. So here we go. Let me pull this up here. If I can share my screen here. Let's see here.
The big scandal.
It's time to go through the files here. So as you can see right here, first of all, this is the poll that's going on right now. So you can see that Brandon Herrera is leading. He is at 45% compared to Tony Gonzalez's 21%. This is an internal, but I think this has been corroborated by another poll recently. And Herrera needs 50% because in Texas, if no candidate gets above 50%, the top two move on to the runoff election.
Okay.
You have to get 50% to win. Now let's go to, let me go to the files. Let me pull up why Herrera, I think, was going to win anyways. I just could not see a world where he actually loses this time.
Same.
But because, guys, he came within a point of beating Tony Gonzalez in the runoff. Herrera, with no name recognition before this, just a cute guy with a gun YouTube channel, running against a several-term incumbent. Literally, the speaker of the House of Representatives, just to show you whose side Mike Johnson is actually on, the Speaker of the House of Representatives had to come out to Texas's 23rd Congressional District to campaign for Gonzalez in a primary. And a bunch of money was thrown at Gonzalez's feet. AIPAC ran a bunch of smear campaigns against Herrera, calling him, a Nazi, an extremist, and all this stuff. And he still only lost by a point. So I think it was a foregone conclusion he was going to win this anyway. But now it really is. Some context. So in September 2025, one of Tony Gonzalez's staffers, I forget what her name was. Oh, gosh, I'll have to look it up. But one of his staffers committed suicide, purportedly. She set herself on fire. And I would never question the official narrative on this. Again, if I say that she was killed, it was in Minecraft. But nevertheless, she committed suicide purportedly by setting herself on fire in September 2025 in her home, left behind a young husband who's a business owner and an 8-year-old child. And of course, Mr. Gonzalez gave his sympathies to the family, but he did not attend the funeral. He didn't have the decency to attend the funeral in Uvalde, Texas. Remember, Uvalde's the side of the shooting.
Situation.
Right. Uvalde's the side of the shooting that happened in, I think it was 2022, 2023, something around that time at the school. So this was alleged that there was possibly a adulterous relationship going on between the staffer and Gonzalez. Another staffer came out and released some text messages from the woman herself saying that Gonzalez had an affair with this woman and that he had actually pressured her into it. And we're going to see the definitive proof here with these text messages that were released by the woman's husband. I believe it was by the woman's husband. But nevertheless, these text messages have been released. We're going to look at the Tony Gonzalez files here now and read some of the stuff he said. Now, remember, Tony Gonzalez went on the record to say multiple times that he did not have sexual relations with that woman. By the way, most of the time when a politician tells you they did not have sexual relations with that woman, they had a ton of sexual relations with that woman. Yeah, dude. In fact, there's probably more women. Gonzalez, by the way, is a married man and a father of 6 children. So he has cheated on his wife, and he has 6 children at home. In fact, this other staffer who this woman confessed her relationship with Tony Gonzalez to, he actually unwittingly set them up in a cabin where they would go and have sexual relations.
Wow.
So
That is just
let's look
awful.
here. He didn't even know it. He didn't even know what he was doing. But this is some of the text. Let's see. Here we go. Let's look at this thread here. Okay, the text. Let's see. Recently obtained text show Representative Tony Gonzalez made explicit sexual request to late staffer. Here's the name: Regina Santos Aviles. I'm sorry, I'm not a Spanish speaker. I don't really know the correct pronunciation there.
Aviles.
Anyway, the text indicate multiple staffers in the office knew about the alleged affair. Text also indicate Gonzalez sought explicit photos from his former staffer, which she pushed back on. The text also says she questioned whether he hired her because he found her attractive, and indicate he asked her about sexual preferences, in which she replies, "This is going too far, boss." In the text, the late staffer also questioned whether Gonzalez was intoxicated while asking her for images and sexual contact. So let's see. This is Regina's.
What a winner running for Congress.
Exactly. So this is from the blue is from the Congressman Gonzalez. He's responding to the staffer here. Then send me a sexy pic. And she says, let's see here. What does he say? There's nothing on that one. And I'm trying to read this. It's tough for me. Oh, there we go. There we go. I can zoom in.
Not redacted.
Not redacted, yeah. So she responds, you don't want a hot picture of me, this, that, whatever. He's asking for her to send a picture. She's like, no, you don't want that. Let's see here. He asks her, I do believe here. Here you go. He asked for her favorite position in sex. She asked for his first. So that is why you're quiet around me, she says sometimes, because you think I'm hot. And then he gives his favorite position, which I'm not going to read because that is disgusting. She responds to his statement saying, this is my favorite sex position, by saying, this is going too far, boss. So she pushes back on him. So how long have you thought I was this hot? So this is where I get into, yes, she was a victim to a certain extent. He did press himself on her, but she also began to comply. She began to go along with it. So let's not paint her as a helpless victim. She's going along with a lot of this too.
Yep.
It's obviously a terrible thing. And obviously, if she did commit suicide, like the official narrative said, then she felt great remorse over it. All right. And he says, what do you like? Asking what she says this is going too far. She's like, what do you like in terms of your favorite sex position?
Completely ignores.
Okay. And he says that he thought she was hot since he worked at the chamber. That would be, I think that's the Chamber of Commerce. I can't remember. I know I saw Brandon Herrera's video kind of explaining some of this. I think he says the Chamber of Commerce in that county. I can't remember exactly though. And yeah. So that's a thing. That's a thing. We're not reading that out loud though, because the stream will get taken down. And she says never. So no, she didn't like that. And then she says, this is too far, Tony. And Tony Gonzalez, what did you delete? You should have read it. True. Okay, there's that. So she tells him again, this is going too far. Oh, whoopsie daisy. Where did it go? Hold on.
Stream got hacked.
Yeah, there we go.
Got it.
Yes, I do. Because she says, you don't want a picture of me. He says, yes, I do. Hurry. Is this a test? She says. Okay. He says, no, I just don't like taking pictures of myself. He said, I'm just such a visual person. What the fuck
wow.
is this?
Bro.
What even is this, bro?
What is doing, man? No.
Lock bro up. Not only should bro be shamed for obviously being a father of six and a husband and having sexual relations with a woman, not his wife, who's also a wife and a mother to an 8-year-old child. Not only that, But like bro's Riz is just so terrible. Like lock
Yeah,
this
it's
guy
not
up.
even.
Socially isolate this man, not only for all the sins, but also for the Riz just
Yep.
being terrible. He said, I'm just a
True.
visual person. Sorry. Okay, let's keep going here. That's the favorite position part. Going too far. Okay, never. This is too far, Tony. You should have read it because she deleted one of her messages purportedly. It's 2 a.m. I'm slow, he says. Go to sleep. Are you sure you're sober? He said,
Are you sure you're sober?
It was like, boss, all right, like, are we sure you're sober right now? Like, low key.
Yeah.
Like, okay. And he says, yes, he is. So, and this is at 2 a.m. So this is like crazy. Okay.
Wow.
And let's see here. What does this say? Please tell me you didn't hire me just because I was hot. No way. Cool. And that's basically the last that we have of it, of these texts so far. Let me see.
You should take the DOJ job, Isaiah. Dropping all the files and with transparency, man.
I know, but this isn't even like.
I know it's not even. Yeah.
These I need the rest of these. I need the rest of these text messages. Like, oh my gosh, dude, this is ridiculous.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's what's going on in Paradise. That's going on. What's going on with Tony Gonzalez? That's what he's doing with getting a salary from taxpayers, $100,000 a year, and what he's doing with the position that the American people, specifically in Texas's 23rd congressional district, entrusted to him. He's having terrible votes. He's voting for gun control legislation. He is clearly an establishment rhino. He's voting against the conservative agenda. And he's having sex with the staffers, and I guarantee you, this woman is not the only one. So
Probably
anyway,
not.
what do you think on this?
Yeah, so I actually didn't hear much about this in the news, which is really interesting. Super glad you brought it to my attention. I think that's just what a sleazeball running for Congress. I think that's awful, and the fact that Mike Johnson is propping him up, like. It reminds me of like Byron Donalds versus James Fishback and Thomas Massey. It seems like all these good dudes are just being like, oh, it's less about your integrity and who you align with, the corrupt people you align with. People are just obviously seeing that now and how fake the system is. It just looks like a clown show. Like, what is this? Like, these are really our elected officials and what we have to choose from, And yeah, I think it's really insulting to the American population and citizens. Witness this clown show go down. Yeah, I know, right? Yeah. Like, it's insane. It feels like some type of movie or dream, or like The Matrix almost. It's like it's kind of hard to even like understand this as reality. It's like, oh, sometimes ignorance is bliss. I feel like most of the American people are like, oh, new thing in the news, like this is the clown show. Like the birds are still chirping outside, and the sun still rises. It's almost gotten to that point where people are just like, this is so crazy. Like, it either can't be real or I'm just dreaming. Like,
absolutely. It's like I'm pinching myself after the FBI calls and all this stuff that's coming. I'm like, oh my gosh, dude. Like, Alex Jones, the government is run by satanic pedophiles. Like, he was correct.
Yeah,
like he was correct about like they're turning the freaking frog. Like, dude. Alex Jones.
Bohemian Grove footage is insane in California, where all those wealthy elites go and make the sacrifices. A lot of U.S. presidents, CIA, Secret Service is there, and like dude just snakes right in over the fence, and just starts filming like the owl sacrifice, and it sounds like demons. Like actors are screaming. I'm like this is insane. Like
Nixon talked about this type of stuff too, and Nixon was firmly against all this stuff, and I think that's why they had to have him removed because he was firmly against them. But yeah, no, it's crazy to me. I mean, the fact that we're at a point in society where the people of the United States are being brought to the point that they'd rather give the keys of Congress and the budget and everything that Congress, controls over to a gun YouTuber rather than have, one of our elites. That shows you where we are in American society. We need to
totally.
And we live in a Republican society and a society in which we can overthrow the elites and we can replace them with new ones who actually have our best interests in mind. It's going to take a lot of work, but I think you're going to see a lot more of these kind of YouTubers, kind of like vaguely political figures who are going to be like even myself, for example. I never wanted to really run for office. I mean, I floated it out there. I remember going to an event in which I gave a speech to some Republican women, and they were like, "Oh my gosh, like, how old are you? I was like 18. I was 18 at the time.
Oh
They're like,
yeah,
oh my
they're
gosh,
super,
so we have some time before you run for president. They
yeah,
floated that to me. They were like, you're a great public speaker. You should run for office somewhere. I said, no, I'm not really all that interested in that. Telling people what they want to hear, that's gross.
yep,
I don't really want to do that. But then I look at what's going on in our society and our elites and how they're running society as a whole. And I look at that and I say, you know what? I don't really have much of an
a
option here.
choice, yeah,
Yeah, I don't really ultimately I feel more of like a reluctant kind of like I'm not George Washington, never would be, but just to explain kind of my reluctance in doing this, I feel like kind of Washington in that sense. I didn't really want to do it. I didn't really think I'd be good at doing it, but I have to do
yep,
it for the sake of the American people building a God honoring society, which ultimately the Lord is the one who I wish to please above everything else.
yep, same here.
Building a God honoring society and building a society for my children and my grandchildren that building a better society for them to grow up in, a better one
Yeah,
than I grew up in, a one where, they're aren't treated like strangers in their own
yeah,
land. And so that is ultimately my goal in running for office and ultimately making the
that's how it
life of the
should be.
American people better.
No, I love
Absolutely.
your
Absolutely.
I love your reluctant genuineness and prudence in running, and your advocacy for the citizens. I mean, that's awesome to see young people get in, and to even to go against the game of capitalism. Let's go to all these banks, work at Goldman Sachs. Ivy
Mhm.
Leagues. There's so much temptation out there to get the quick way rich, sell your soul, and work for greater global organizations that don't represent the American people or yourself. So I
Right.
network with a lot of people who've been through all the hoops. And probably done everything under the sun. But at the end of the day, it's not. I don't think it's good for American sovereignty, and for the country moving forward. So, because America is an anti-civilization. If you look at other countries, and after
Mhm.
traveling, I realized this in the Philippines. Like, um, our divorce laws are awful. Singlehood, parents are encouraged. The system incentivizes it. We just got all these capitalist games, and as you get to these super cities with AI, abstraction emerges. A lot of people don't understand this or have heard of this concept, but like, you're removing yourself from rural roots. You grow your own food to you don't even know where the food came from, or the drink you ordered in the city. You're working for this global organization 80 hours a week at this bank. Really no time for a family. Everyone's crowded, but that's what it benefits the elites ultimately. They don't care about a growing, really sustainable population.
We're just slaves.
Because they have so much leverage anyways. They can leverage as much money on each U.S. citizen, as much as they want. Like alchemy, they've already mastered that with leverage, shorts, lawns in the stock market. So it ultimately, at the end of the day, you're just cattle for them.
Absolutely, and that's why they are proponents of mass migration. Bernie
Yeah,
Sanders, I saw an interview with him. He was like, "Mass migration, open borders." He said, "That's a right-wing proposal. That's a proposal of the big banks and the big businesses." You know what? Bro is legitimately right. Like he is
yeah,
actually correct. It is
yeah,
because you see, when you view human beings as nothing but cattle and nothing
yeah,
but slaves, then the native population of a society doesn't matter because you could just import people because the native
yep,
population here in America compared to those coming from other countries, poor countries, they're smarter, better educated.
yep,
They're Americans, and so they kind of have that independent streak in them. They're harder to smash into the ground and say, you're going to do this and whip them into shape. They're harder
yep,
to make that way. Whereas you bring a bunch of people in from third world countries, it's not great in the United States nowadays, but it's better than the third world countries, and I'm
yep,
grateful for that. But these
yep.
people they bring in, they'll be grateful to be in the United States, and they'll leech off of welfare. They'll do the work, like they'll
They'll
bring
vote for
Indian. They'll,
whoever.
they'll vote for whoever they're told to because they're grateful to
Yep,
be at least here. But they're not grateful for the right reasons. They're grateful to be here to be able to leech off the system.
yep,
And like companies, they'll hire an H-1B visa worker in India to come in and do a job for
yep,
$20,000 that they'd have to pay an American $100,000 for. The
yep,
unemployment rate amongst Gen Z is 9.1%. Not because Gen Z doesn't want to work or because they're lazy. Actually, if you look at the numbers, Gen Z is the hardest working generation in a very, very, very long time. Many
yep.
are working several different jobs.
Oh yeah,
And I mean, and so, anyways, the unemployment rate is so high is because people are buying into the system. They're going to
yep,
school. They're getting their degree. They've been promised, a job, a house, marriage, and the American dream. And then they get out, and their jobs are being taken by Indians. The
yep.
stock, the housing market is it's out of reach. Buying a home, they may never be able to do that. Can't afford to get married. They're going to be
True.
renting forever. They're depressed. They're working dead end jobs. that is the creation of a generation of young people who will overthrow the system and may
Yep.
overthrow the American constitutional system itself if they're pushed to that limit, because people have
True.
their limit. And I don't think that
Yep.
the American constitutional system needs to be overthrown. I believe that it
Yeah.
works when it's in the hands of the right people. And I believe in
Absolutely.
the refortification of the American system rather than the revolution against it and the
Yep.
abolishment of it. I believe in refortification. And so I
Yeah.
think ultimately, though, that if you push them to a certain limit, you're going
Yeah.
to
There's a
get
limit.
people who are more radical than me come
Yep.
in. The people complain about me. I've been called a racist, a hate monger, this person and that type of thing and that thing and that thing. Listen, if you keep saying that about me and you keep pushing these people to a certain limit,
Wait till the next
I
guy gets in.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. I'm not gonna be your worst problem, dude. I'm gonna be
Yeah.
actually your ally at that point, because you're like, well, no, bring him back, bring him back.
Yeah.
You
Bring
keep
Isaiah
calling for
back.
me to come back. Bring Mr. LaFone back in here, and we don't want him. No, but by that point, I won't even come back in there. You know why? Because
Yep.
your your defeat is deserved, well deserved. Actually, you will deserve it. I'm, actually a quite sensible human being. I'm not
Mm.
sort of one of these low IQ people who thinks, "Oh, we just
Yep.
got to blow everything up," right? It
Yep.
takes a lot of intelligence to look at it and say, "Oh, there's these things. This is the problem. The system as it exists. The
It's
system I just want."
multifaceted. Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
A lot of
So the
moving parts.
system, yeah, it takes intelligence to understand that and to say, okay, we don't throw the baby out with the bathwater, but there are
Yeah.
some things that we just need to cut completely. And you have unintelligent people who come in here and who will just say, blow the system up. And a lot of people will be pushed to that limit if you keep it up. So,
Yep.
absolutely, absolutely. Well, we're going to start
Whether
taking
that's
some
good or bad
questions.
thing.
Yeah, exactly. We're
Yeah.
going
We'll
to start
see.
taking some questions. 8 people watching right now. Thank you guys so much. Make sure to like and subscribe. Please send in some questions. We I'm gonna start taking some of these, and then we'll head off of here. Thank you guys so much. I've much enjoyed having you on, Wyatt. I appreciate you,
Yeah. Same
brother.
here, Isaiah. It was a blast. Had a lot of fun.
Absolutely, we're gonna have to do this a lot more. All
Yeah.
right.
We really got into deep dives there, but I'm glad we covered it. I'm like, oh, sometimes I just back off. I'm like,
Well,
oh, I'm kind
that's
of
the
afraid to
difference
talk about
between
this.
us
But
and some of these Republican plants. Let's see, we
true.
are actually intelligent and educated on these things. I'm not
Yep.
the most intelligent individual in the world. People tell me that. I'm like, guys, you realize that I'm like, I don't hold the candle to, say the founding fathers, for instance. It's just the
Yeah. They're
reason that
brilliant. Yeah.
people view like someone like me as intelligent is because the standard for what is intelligent has
Yeah.
dropped
Dropped.
so far that me just stating beliefs about society and civilization that have been held for 10,000 years is
Yeah.
somehow, novel and new and
It's like,
strange.
oh, in the past 20 years, it's like, oh, that's just crazy now. It's like, wait, what?
Yeah,
Like,
exactly. Exactly. Like, for 10,000 years, we understood that the population of a certain place and of a certain society were not just replaceable. You couldn't just dump them and get a new one and
yeah.
expect it to all work. You can't replace the European population and the native population of America, because I'll include Europeans and, some of the African American people in there as well. You
Yep.
can't replace the native population of the United
No.
States. Put some Indians in here, Indians from India, by the way, and Arabs, and
Yep.
expect it to all work out. It's not. They're going to turn it into the third world hellhole that they came from, because that's their culture and that's what their society and what their religion has produced.
Yep.
And so, this is just basic things. Like, I thought we all understood this. Now it's racist to say that. And see, I just stopped caring, because no
Yeah.
matter how many qualifiers you add to that, like, this is a cultural thing, not a race thing.
You'll
It's
never win.
racist. Yeah, exactly. So, I get to the point now where I'm like, oh, you know what? Fine. I actually, I reject your premise to begin with, and you're not a serious person. I don't need to be speaking to you. Go talk to your straw man or watch paint dry. I don't care. But let's go through some of these comments, concerns. Put your questions in the chat.
If you're there, Luke, I know you got some questions.
I am here, gentlemen. Wes, what's up, brother? Good to see you.
Oh, I love the profile pic, man.
Does our guest have YouTube?
I created a song in November. That was just Wyatt Johnson, Meet the Fam. It's a good song, so if you want to listen to it, that's the only video I got out in my name. So,
what will you be doing for Martin Media?
Yeah, so I'm handling director of operations and marketing now.
Okay, awesome.
Yep. So I've been helping Zach with a lot of the pitch decks, talking to different investors or working with orgs, and because I advise too many startups right now, 5. But my bread and butter is kind of being the second ear to like a lot of different founders or CEOs, because this economy, I'm kind of like a polymath. Like I like to do it all, because with the AI revolution, neurodivergence is rapidly being benefited for the 21st century economy as we get out of industrial into the AI information age. So I've leveraged that to the max from doing podcasts. I'm on the board of Tense AI. It's like an AI agent startup. Worked with a lot of different venture capital firms. So, and then it gives me a good experience to hop onto the next venture. You know, I don't just join things to join things. I'm usually very fully committed and give it my all. I want to leave it in a better place than how I found it or left it. So yeah, it's been really cool to just work with a lot of different people all over. You know, using my WhatsApp going, people from India, Philippines, or all over. You know, they're like, hey, advise this pitch deck, and I'll give them the rundown and how they should get into this incubator. Or, you know, with startups, they often bootstrap, they don't have as much funds, so you got to get pretty creative when starting out. So
absolutely, you should
always side questing. I should, yeah. Zach said that, so I appreciate that. Yeah, I'd love to. I've always been like in the creative space. You know, I want to always get into acting and directing and songwriting. I'll be going through Grammy University in 2 weeks. See how that goes. I won't sell my soul though, but I think
please don't.
We need more Christians to be involved in a lot of different media, music, etc., with good hearts. Even moving to places like California and bringing your heart and spirit with. Because not like it's usually the rural city divide. And usually my grit does well. And like people with LA, they're like, wow, I like your just open-mindedness and, you know, what you stand for and how you work with people. And it really goes a long way. And try to be an inspiration to other young men too, who navigating this whole AI age and information age. And, you know, it's been really, really a blessing to work with a lot of cool people. And at the end of the day, you know, I do like to get along and work with everyone, both left and right. Doesn't matter where you're from, as long as I can be me and you do you. And, you know, I can share God at the end of the day and what I believe in. That's really what's important to me.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You should run for office. We can talk
Thank
later
you.
about what your district looks like, and I can.
Yeah, absolutely.
But we won't discuss that on here. Those are private meetings, you know.
Yep.
Well, we've got a scheme
behind closed doors.
No, yeah, I get what you're saying. I don't think you're gonna move me to California. I mean, I've got the pin of the state flag of North Carolina here, and North Carolina is my home. I'm North Carolina through and through.
Maybe if we bring the Panthers out there or something.
No, you're not going to give me
okay.
You talk about the rural. You talk about the rural city divide, and I'd like to touch on that a little bit too, because ultimately, our movement is going to be grassroots. It's going to be from the ground up.
Yeah.
But ultimately, we have to capture the cities. That is, you just must. You must capture the cities. You must at least replace the elites, and make the cities conservative. And again, because cities are where culture happens. Cities are kind of the hotbed of civilization. You don't win the war by running out and retreating from the cities into the surrounding country. Christianity, when it was spreading in the Roman Empire, what did it do? It didn't go out to the countries, into the countryside. No, actually, the countryside was mostly pagan. It was the cities that were Christian. Cities like Rome and Jerusalem, just these concentrated centers of Christianity. Antioch, Alexandria in Egypt. That's what we have to do. We have to go into the cities. We have to capture the cities. And so,
that's why I keep most of my release under, like, even on social media, I'm not as out there and involved. I got like a cross out there, but like I'm very, very neutral with most people I work with. It's like I don't want to close doors if I don't have to. I've always been that way. So, but I mean, I like going on food podcasts and chatting politics. I got to vent it out, and that's why I got you here, Isaiah. I'm like, I got so much to talk about, man. Like, I got to get it out once in a while.
Absolutely. But as I was saying, we've got to capture the cities. We got to have the elites.
Yeah.
You can have a movement come up from the grassroots, and that's what we're going to do. It's the people's movement. It is the people's movement. But you have to replace the elites, and you have to capture the cities if you want the movement to establish itself and survive. The reason that the Trump movement is not going to survive is because it fundamentally rejected the premise that it has to capture the elites. They foolishly believe that they can just do it without the elites. They don't need to replace the elites. They don't need the institutions. They don't need the cities. We can do it without them. You have to do it because the cities are
naive take. Because going to the cities are like people where Christianity isn't. As Christians we're told to be wise as a serpent and innocent as a dove. And I think it's important to us to be aware of what's going on and fight for what we believe in. A lot of Christians, I think, I can't go to Grammy University or, I shouldn't be in this creative space or the arts. And I really push back against that. Like, I got my art back here, my trumpet, painting I did. I'm all for the creative side. This one was published. It's just really cool. And show you the magazine here. So there's
Awesome.
probably a lot of left-leaning people and publishers there, but at the end of the day, I still had fun. Was able to work with them, and we had a good time. I think it's really important for the left and the right to start agreeing on a lot more things, and seeing each other. At the end of the day, as Christians, we should. We have our beliefs. Take the Bible literally at heart, but I think it's very important to spread the gospel, see people where they are, meet them where they are, whether that's California, the cities, or New York, or etc. I think that's very important.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think ultimately too, Christianity has done more for the arts and sciences than any religion
Yep.
ever, and anything ever, actually.
Yeah.
And ultimately too, so this idea of Christianity retreating from culture, retreating from the arts, retreating from society is actually new and novel.
Yeah.
Like I said, the first thing Christians did was go to the cities to affect the culture, to affect the people where they were. And ultimately too, the call of the gospel is not just an individual call to salvation. It
Yep.
is that, but it's not just that. The call of the gospel is also to change societies, to allow the gospel to penetrate cultures and to change them. The reason that European culture became the most dominant force on the face of the planet was a combination of two things. One, the European drive and will to conquer everything in its path and to become something great. And then two, Christianity. Christianity is actually the most important thing, but that paired with this already existing grit and determination created the greatest empires the world had ever seen, created the greatest societies and the most prestigious societies that the world had ever seen. And so ultimately, I think that the only way we do win is by getting in these cultural spaces. You do not win by retreat. You do not win by
Absolutely.
retreat.
No, I'm glad we both agree on that. I always like to hit that home when I'm on a podcast or chatting with others, because I think it's one of the most leveraged, under-leveraged perspectives for the Republican Party at this moment.
Absolutely. You don't create an alternative halftime show. You just get your people at the halftime show.
Yeah, exactly.
And look, and I tell people too, like, yes, it's hard to make it in music industry or the art industry, but it's not as hard as you actually might think, considering that we live in a time of very little actual talent. Most of our elites are actually not talented. They got there because they bought it. They bought their way there, or the women slept their way there.
Yep.
It's a lot easier than you actually think.
We live in the era of Grammy that's why I'm going through it.
Yeah, we live in the era of the
online
internet.
application.
Yeah.
Learn the ins and outs and, get a new perspective that'll help me with other ventures in the future.
Absolutely. Wes says, I'm big on federalism, but we have states for a reason. Absolutely. And I think the two dangers, the two pits that you might, fall into on either side is either A, giving the federal government too much power. James Madison talks about this in the Federalist Papers, where he warns against
great Federalist Papers.
Yes, dude, I love the Federalist Papers.
Same.
Madison talks about giving the government too much power, and he says that, the only being in the universe that can be trusted with all three levers of government are God himself. There's a reason that the executive, judicial, and legislative are all split up. That's because James Madison, although I don't know that he knows he's doing it because he wasn't Episcopalian, James Madison is assuming a Calvinist or a Reformed understanding of human nature, a Protestant understanding actually of human nature. That T in tulip, total depravity. I don't like tulip, but total depravity, that humanity and human beings are totally depraved. Madison is assuming this when he says if men were angels, government would not be necessary. When he says we have to split all three branches of government up because human beings are sinful. But then the pit on the other side is what I see as the era of the Confederates in the 1860s, where there's too much emphasis on the rights of states. Actually, states don't get to just, go against federal law. This was a conflict between John C. Calhoun in South Carolina and Andrew Jackson, the president, in the 1830s during Jackson's administration. Jackson would lay the groundwork and the precedent that Lincoln would be able to take advantage of in the 1860s with the crisis of the Civil War. So I think those are two pits, either giving the federal government too much power and being naive about human nature, or a pit on the other side where we give it too little power and the states become a loose confederation, as John Jay said, that will end up going to war with each other and conquer each other, the balkanization of the United States.
That's a good perspective. There's definitely, a balance with that between the two.
Absolutely. Open door moderator. Greetings, brother. Good to see you.
Greetings.
Let's see. Michael Horton said that we could have a diversity of culture. Examples: one, bad Babel; one, culture; two, good Pentecost diversity culture. What do you think, Michael Horton? Correction. Yeah. So I think that Michael Horton labeling a culturally homogenous society as bad is foolish, and I see
Mm,
this with a lot of the kind of like theological leaders that we have in evangelical society. I'm not even evangelical, but in
yeah, same.
evangelical society, a lot of their theological leaders are important to Presbyterian, but he's not a mainline Presbyterian. He's an evangelical, which is like half Baptist sometimes. But
Half Baptist.
half Baptist sometimes.
I like
But
that.
nevertheless, a lot of them, like John Piper, who is a Baptist, who is an evangelical, he had a tweet in which he was talking about, like, to love the foreigners and all this stuff, which we should, but that doesn't mean let them overrun you. In fact, that's a biblical curse
Mm,
to have them rule over you. And he was talking about how wonderful it was that he could see all these Somalians in line to vote with them in 2012 in Minnesota, because he's from Minnesota. But they often follow this kind of third wayism on politics. I'm not conservative or liberal. I'm a third wayist, which just turns out to be liberal. It turns out to
liberal.
be socially leftist. And so they frame things like a culturally homogenous society as bad. It's not reflective of the gospel or, Christian society. That's bad. We don't want a culturally homogenous. We want a diverse culture where all these people come together and mix the soup together.
Yeah.
And
Don't be a
kumbaya.
racist.
All right, don't be a racist. Gosh, why would you want that? Now, the problem is that just doesn't work from a civilizational and societal level. And ultimately, that's not Christian either. That's actually anti-Christian. The call of the gospel was never to abolish the nations. The call of the gospel is to Christianize the nations, to Christianize cultures, not mix the cultures and put them together in one soup and mix them up. No, 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 no. But to Christianize each culture, to make them Christian cultures, and ultimately to Christianize the world. That is the call of the gospel, not abolish it and mix it all together. So I fundamentally reject the idea that cultural homogeneity is bad, because we have cultural diversity now. And look at the state we're in. We are exactly in the state that John Jay would have predicted that we would be in. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, definitely agree. I mean, I think, there's definitely a balance. And like, it'd be different if like, they traveled freely, or like if it was, I mean, this is all manipulation with the great replacement and the world power. That's not organic growth. It's not organic traveling. It's all through incentives and manipulation, which isn't Christian in of itself. To say it is pretty naive, because you're just ignoring people at the top pulling all the strings. And I keep coming back to that because people don't look enough at the top and don't see all the moving parts and how our system runs. And just going to keep being played by them. And I think as Christians we should be able to travel, freely, but not overtake a country, reap off its benefits, the fruits of people's labor, and there has to be fair standards to it for sure. And like the three fastest growing religions in America is Islam, Judaism, and Buddhism, based off this controlled migration. And it's just not organic. It's all planned. Sure, it's great to see different cultures and travel, but the incentives in their hearts, people incentivizing this aren't for the purpose isn't for culture to merge or be Christian. It's
Right.
to make the top richer at the end of the day.
It's cool to see it here, or cool to see it
Yeah.
abroad, but not here.
Yeah.
Ultimately, you can't abolish American society and American culture as it existed and expect everything to work out. Like I said,
Yep.
human beings, it comes from the kind of like stereotypical liberal idea that everyone's a blank slate, that everyone's culture is equal. Actually, it's not. And not everyone is
Yeah.
a blank slate. You are informed by the world in which you grew up. You are informed by what you read, by your education. You are informed by
Yeah.
your culture. It is a worldview. Worldview is a lens that you look through. And so these people who are coming, they don't have the same worldview as you and I. And so they're going to push for things that are against our benefit, against the benefit of the Native Americans, the native population in the United
And
States.
also, like most countries, I guess they'd be more racist than us because Philippines, Thailand, Mexico, they have a way more stricter immigration standards than us in the culture.
Right.
If you step out of line in their culture, Japan, as a foreigner, they don't want anything to do with you.
Yeah,
like
you're
you'll
out.
be insulted in the streets. Yeah. So we treat foreigners like way better than like probably 90% of the world. So
Right. And our elites took advantage of our kindness.
yeah.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
And ultimately, like I've told a lot of people, I've said, if you seek to abolish American society because you have this strange idea that you can just pump these people in here and everything and abolish American society and everything will be fine. If you abolish American society, America is the largest producer of missionaries, largest exporter of missionaries. You're going to lose that. And it will actually be a
Yeah.
detriment to the gospel if America falls into this like tribalistic, third world like crap show. That's actually
Yep.
to a detriment to the gospel. It is a further bolstering to the gospel if America stays firm and returns to her roots. That's ultimately what needs to happen. And a lot of people, at times, I see people they're like, I don't want a Christian society. I don't want a Christian nation. God said we'd be persecuted. Okay, but your mindset and the mindset of a lot of evangelicals that I see and I critique. Only I think there are good evangelicals, and I think the evangelicals can be good. But
Yeah.
a lot of the mindset that I see in so many evangelicals is this what I call a Donatist mindset. The Donatists were heretics who actually sought out persecution. They sought another baptism of blood. And these people are very similar. It's a Donatist mindset. It's actually a heretical mindset to want persecution. Christ said you would get persecution, but don't seek it out. He never said to seek out blood. He never said for you to provoke your government to want to kill you. That was never the goal.
Isaiah with the mic drops tonight, man. Love it.
That was thank you, sir. That was never the call of Christ. But I remember this meme that I saw of this guy. It was like, "You're not into politics." He's like a British guy. You're not into politics.
Oh, I think I know that one.
What aren't you into? Comic books, trains, you flipping child. Like that's what I think of when people are like, "I don't want a Christian society. I want a Christian." Okay, what do you want then? An Islamic society? Secular society has failed. Like that's out the window. We're not going to be a secular society for much longer. That's completely failed. It's not worked. Okay, so and utilitarian, libertarian morality, where everything is permissible so long as the majority agree it's okay, or it doesn't hurt these other people. That hasn't worked either. You need a set of morality. So what do you want? You want Islamic society? You want and you're all getting killed. Like if that's Islamic,
rainbows and unicorns.
Yeah, you want rainbows. You want Islamic society. You want a Buddhist society. You want a Hindu society. You want people crapping on the streets of Washington D.C. Like what do you want truly? Like if you don't want, like you want a Christian society. Why? Because you have the freedom to take that microphone and say, I hate Christian society. And you can only say that under a Christian society because all of your freedoms are due to Christianity. You would not have the freedom to say 100%. Anything in Islamic society because your head would be impaled on a pike as the Quran commands. So
I also think it's not country. Like it's funny. Like a lot of Christians, like we're against a lot of countries that are more like socially conservative than us, which is just fascinating. Like, Qatar or like China and,
You're
Russia. It's a very, no, I'm not.
Wyatt Johnson?
Maybe. I wasn't supposed to say anything. Hit my lips. You didn't hear anything.
7K from Qatar.
Never for Qatar. No, never. I mean, they're awful. I mean, with what they do with the journalists, but no.
Minecraft, right?
And Minecraft, only in Minecraft. But like, I would have never expected that shift. It's like really weird. It's like all these top-down governments are like, it's like, oh, they want the nuclear family. They're not a big fan of the alphabet soup that's pushed through by the left and whatever. Pride and all. And it's just a weird shift,
Yeah.
And
if they're Islamic, they'll also murder you and your children. But
if you don't agree, if you don't agree,
like we'll murder you and your 5 children. Like your wife will be raped in front of you as we slit your throat. I mean that's just Islamic society. Hey, Muhammad, man, what can you say? He married a 6-year-old. I mean, what can you expect from these people? That's why I say fundamentally, like their society and their culture influenced by Islam itself. Islam is the most important thing to them. Of course, Christ is the most important thing to me. But we're a Christian society. We're built on Christian morals. Nothing I say contradicts what our society is built on. Their most important thing is Islam. That directly contradicts. Their imams are telling, hey, we're going to take over this country. We're going to impose Sharia law. Okay, well, that's going to suck for literally everyone involved. Like everyone's going to die. And ultimately, I think they were sent here because they're useful idiots, because they have this generational grudge against us because of the Crusades, because of the strife between Islam and Christianity. Islam and Judaism to an extent as well, but Islam is the ultimate corruption of the good religion. It takes, Jewish mysticism and Christian fan fiction and elements of both and smashes them together. And what can you say? I mean, Muhammad was an illiterate 7th century caravan robber who was more, focused on taking it in the rear like a good boy from the men of Al-Zut and, raping little girls. So what can you expect from this religion? But the problem is Muhammad himself did have trauma from his past. And because he became such a great religious, and not great in a good sense, but you know what I
Yeah.
mean. Great in the sense of he was, a dynamic leader, but he became this great leader. He imposed a great religious and political leader. He imposed his trauma and his issues on his people, which is why the culture is so rotten, which is why they can't build great societies, which is why their societies are so repressive.
Yeah, they're a very nomadic tribe, and I've read,
Yeah.
the great Thomas Edward Lawrence of British.
Lawrence of Arabia.
Yes, one of my favorite books of all time. Like, because like the Muslim tribes accepted him, they didn't fully trust him. They gave him the robes and everything, but like he didn't want foreign U.S. involvement, British involvement within the Middle Eastern tribes. Said they could self-govern because they're just nomadic people. It was just a really fascinating story. He was a brilliant man, hated by his own British intelligence agencies, of course. He took Aqaba alone with the tribes, and he kind of just veered off from the British military. I mean, he was a soldier, but he just fought with the Arabs.
Yeah.
I think it's a testament to, I don't think we need to get involved like as much in the Middle East as we do. Like, everyone knows like the Gaza is just a real estate cleansing, essentially. China, Russia, and us have the contracts already for the data centers we're going to build there. The New World Order, Pact Judaica. We want the canal. We want the new global data centers and AI surveillance in that space. The Palestinians just happen to be in the way. They want to move from their land, and I wouldn't either. So we're way too involved with like, I think most of the situations over there in general.
Yeah. And unlike a lot of people, the Iranians are telling us they're not building nukes. Now, obviously, do I trust the Iranians? Absolutely not.
No, I mean, you can't take.
I'm sorry.
face value.
I thought that you guys knew that I was a political guy. Of course, I don't trust anyone.
Yeah, well, you can't.
I'm more willing to try to talk with them and get an agreement with them on the nuclear arms deal.
Sure.
I think we can work with them more so than we think we can. And so I'm willing to do that. Now, if they break, a treaty, then we have a bigger issue. But ultimately, I think we need to stop our involvement in the area. That we created ISIS, we created Osama bin Laden. We've caused more problems than we've actually helped solve.
I mean, and what would stop China and Russia from sending Iran nuclear weapons anyway? China and Russia are already on their side, and they've already had nuclear weapons for 50 years. So it's like, I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. So let's keep going here. Let's see. Said, can you dive into the Epstein files? I actually have done a deep dive in the Epstein files. Go on my channel, go through the episodes of the Isaiah Phone Show. It should have been about 2 weeks ago. I did an episode on the Epstein files, and
Thanks for the question, Luke, and thanks for tuning in, buddy.
Thank you. You are gifted, brother. You have changed my mind on many things. Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. Very much appreciate that. Thank you so much. I would vote for you. Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. You should vote for Wyatt too. That's great. Yeah.
Yep. Luke and I are going to run together. 2048.
Based. Is two kingdom theology based? Well, you talking about radical two kingdoms where they radically separate this? No. If so, no. All dominions are God's dominion. And that's why, when we pray in the Lord's Prayer, as it is in heaven, let it be so on earth, that hints to that. All dominions are God's dominion. That's why we want to Christianize culture. Go into every God's tribe, people. Nation. Yeah. We want to Christianize cultures. We want to Christianize societies because we want what's down here to reflect what is up there. And that is God having dominion over everything and having dominion over the government ultimately. In the United States, it is true, the statement from Samuel Rutherford, Lex Rex, the law is king. And ultimately, above the law is the lawgiver. And that is God himself. So God, the lawgiver, is king.
Yep.
Should I make a video about classical conservatism? You should.
Do it.
Absolutely.
I'd watch.
Would 10 out of 10 would watch. Okay. Hello. Hey, Gabe. How are you doing, bud? Good to see you, bud. He's from the Holy Land of Ohio.
Oh, dope. Bet.
How has feminism affected the country? Oh, dude, how much time do we have?
Oh, where do we start? I'm gonna buy books out, notes, man.
we can paint in broad strokes here, but I did a video. If you go past a little bit ways on the Isaiah Phone Show on my main channel on how the sexual revolution destroyed American society. I talk about there. I go into detail, give receipts about who funded it, how it all happened. But in short, essentially how feminism has affected the country is they have taken women out of the homes. They got to women first in the 1940s while the men were away at war. You get women to go to work. What you do is then now we need daycare centers to set up with the kids. The kids aren't as attached to their parents. They're getting their ideology and their education not so much from their mother and their father, from their parents, but from the school system, from the American government. John D. Rockefeller said himself that, in the past, school has been to create virtuous statesmen and educated, intelligent statesmen. But instead, now John D. Rockefeller wanted school to create workers. And that was the goal, to make slaves out of the population. You can't do that with the nuclear family intact. You have to tear down the nuclear family. So that's point one. And ultimately, that has led to the indoctrination of an entire generation, and most people and a good chunk of people in the United States. And that generation is the boomer generation. And so that's how it first started. You get women in the workforce, and then what they do is then they incentivize women going into the workforce by making it inconceivable that a man can live and that a family can live on the man's salary alone. So therefore, you make it so the women have to go. So even if they do want to be
Delay
stay-at-home
marriage.
moms, yeah, exactly. You delay marriage, you bring the birth rate down because now you can't afford as many children anymore. And if any women even want to stay at home, they can't. They can't. Now you have to go to work, or the man has to work several jobs, and so then he's never home, which means that a distant father means that these children are going to be easier to impress upon, because the children will ultimately children will fall in line and usually go in line with the ideology of the most present male figure in their life. Women and mothers have an impact, yes, but on ideological formation, especially amongst young men, especially amongst young women. I heard a friend of mine who said, I believe that young women actually don't hold opinions at all. They hold the opinions of their father or husband. I don't know if I would go that far to say they don't have opinions at all, but especially women, their
Heavily
opinions are
influenced.
heavily influenced by the men in their life. And if there is no man in their life, there's no father, there's no husband, that man is replaced then by the state. And
Yep.
the state, and see, women are followers naturally. Some of them haven't gone along with the feminization of culture and feminism and all that stuff. But a lot of them have, because women are naturally followers and men are naturally leaders. If you get good men, you change the cultural conversation, you change what is the status quo. Actually, when people were fighting for women's suffrage, the biggest fighters against women's suffrage were women, because they tend to go with the status quo. You change the status quo, we will get the women to follow us to American greatness. And so that's just briefly how feminism has affected the country. You can go on yourself.
Yeah, I mean, definitely agree. I mean, how's it affected me? I'll just tell my family, it's like, hey, always encouraged me to get married, but like maybe if it's 1920s, like,
Yeah,
let's get married in heaven.
I'd be
and let
married
God's
now.
filter do the work.
Yeah, now Benjamin Netanyahu is preventing me from getting married.
I know, right? So, I mean, it's definitely changed, the family, and like a lot of modern day society incentivizes feminism. Go get the job, don't have a family, make a career your love, your husband or whatever, replace that with career fulfillment. A lot of Gen Z, like, they need to realize that there's much more to life than just your career, and it can be exciting and all, but I think to give up selfishness and kind of that narcissistic, I got to do it in all my career. It's hard for a lot of women to give up. It's like Kool-Aid, or like alcohol. It's like an addiction, and it's hard to break. It's so ingrained in society now. Now you have dating apps, and a lot of lonely men. Like, I'm single now. I even went to the Philippines and thought I was getting some like traditional wife. Luke, you know all about this, and it's like, there's these 20 other guys. Nice. So I can not only escape feminism, but the girl in the Philippines who wants the green card. I dated her 2 years, loved her. I was gonna have a family. Like, I was heartbroken, crying for a long time. I know, Luke, you're in the same spot. So I think it's just important for young men to stay focused on God, the mission.
Women do not exist, actually.
Yeah.
Women are not real.
I've just been in this tunnel vision, man. It's like, it's just me. Like, maybe I'll try dating like heaven, like let God's filter out all the women, but like, we'll see where life takes me, man. If the right person comes along, that'd be great. But like, meantime, I'm just gonna keep doing what I'm doing, having fun and meeting awesome people. So,
absolutely.
That's the 2026 male perspective. That's where we're at right now.
We're going on a generational run.
Yeah.
How are we going to win in cities? Well, to win in the cities, you have to replace the elites. and you have to influence the institutions. A lot of the major institutions are congregated around the cities, and the elites often flock to the cities as centers of intellectual thought and
And I
civilization
think
and society.
smart men should get in creative work, the arts, drama,
Absolutely.
acting, directing. Really take charge in these white collar roles. We do great, dominate blue collar. I think that's awesome, but I think we really need to step outside our comfort zones like we never have before. Put ourselves out there, just be real. A lot of women around the cities, and it's just like, I think that a lot of more young men need to be involved in city council, active in their governments, active in their
Active
churches,
in state
etc.
governments as well. Yeah, very much so.
Yep.
Yeah. It's very
That's my
interesting.
take.
Yeah. State governments, it's very interesting too.
Yep.
Anyway, yeah, but yes,
yeah, you're like state governments, your favorite.
Yeah. Oh man, state governments. Yeah, you run for state office as well, because that's where it really starts. That's the state government
Yep.
closest to the people.
Good
And
starting
so,
spot. Yeah.
if you want to start running for office, yeah, do that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, anyway, how are we going to win in cities? Going back around to something else I was going to say about that too is also, ultimately, the cities will lead the society. The cities will lead the civilization wherever she may go. And so if we influence the elites, we get the cities back. Ultimately, we will be led back in a conservative direction. And when we do that, which I firmly believe we will, because I'm a very optimistic person, I believe in the future of the United States. I believe in the people of the United States. We need to put guardrails in place. Like I said, refortify, rebuild and refortify. Put these guardrails here so something like this doesn't happen again. We can progress as a society, technologically advance, but ultimately, though, we have to put guardrails in place to make sure that we don't go into social anarchy like we have again.
Yep.
Okay. I don't know who this individual is, but thank you so much for the hearts, I guess. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate that. Watching from the Philippines. Hey, you've been talking about it.
My buddy, yeah, I posted my Facebook. I got a lot of friends in the Philippines, and they're all hardened and excited. So I appreciate you guys from the Philippines watching. That means a lot, and God bless y'all.
Thank you guys so much. I look forward to when we will be conquering the Philippines and bringing it into the new American empire. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Do you think we should run Nick Fuentes for office? Absolutely. Like, not, dude, you're crazy as heck. If you believe we're going to run Nick Fuentes, you're crazy as heck if you think we're going to run Nick Fuentes. Actually, legitimately, though, I agree with a lot of Nick Fuentes' problems. I think he's got some good solutions. But ultimately, though, I don't agree with the rhetoric. I don't agree with the bombastic personality that he is. And I don't think that he's actually going to be effective in fixing the culture. I think he's going to influence the ideological and the philosophical thought of a lot of young men. His America firstism. He's a smart individual, but it's very raw and unphilosophical. It's not philosophical. It's just kind of yelling into the void. That's where someone like me, I take it and I say, look, I have a lot of the same issues. I think, we agree on some things, but I take it and I, kind of add meat to it. It's not just I'm sick of society. I'm sick of the market being terrible. I'm sick of this. I'm sick of that. I am also a disaffected young man. So welcome to the party. But it's taking the bone that is there, what is there, and adding meat to it and adding philosophical and intellectual grounding to it. I don't think Fuentes is ever going to be effective in running for state or federal office because of the fact of who he is, and he's such a divisive personality. I think you'll see more people who are ideologically influenced by him in certain ways start running for office, but who are less divisive and have more, intellectual grounding to their thought. But I don't even think it's preferable.
No, he doesn't want to.
Yeah, no, and I don't think it's fruitful to run him. I just think he's too alienating. And again, like I said, I don't agree with the rhetoric. Ultimately, we don't want to replace leftist anarchic society with also swinging back over to the right, ungentlemanly, kind of preposterous society where we're just bombastic and loud and screaming to the void. I don't think replacing something bad with something also unstatesmanlike is good. I think you need statesmen, and statesmen are what's going to bring this country back. So I think it's even profitable for us to run him. Anyways, but you will see a lot of people who are ideologically
based.
What do you think? What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think people probably more refined would get in. I think people can just relate to him because he just says what he says, and that's why he has a great, large following. He's been doing the podcast for 10 years, so he's got a pretty devoted base, and I can understand a lot of the frustrations. Like I said, if he ran, he probably wouldn't last,
You would
stand a
be
chance.
trounced. You would be
Yeah,
trounced, sadly.
but I do
Yeah.
admire some of the grit or just like the unfiltered frustrations. Like people
Mhm.
are like, yeah, I get that. Like, I'm working 80 hours a week. Like I want something to change.
Yeah.
And America, yeah, as you said, more radical. I think people are getting to that point, just completely fed up.
Yeah.
I think people want genuine statesmen, not like super smooth or sly or just try to get in
Right.
and say the right words. I think that's why Trump was successful. He's more like Fuentes and that's just bombastic, saying what people want to hear. Despite if you're one way or the other, I think people can tell you have a good heart and you're for the
Mhm.
American people. And in general, they're just very small breed of people who actually
Absolutely.
care. So,
And I
but you
think
can
too.
tell when someone has it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, you can tell. Like, they're like, you got it. You could be a politician. I could see that. I could see that, and I can
Thanks.
see your heart for the
Appreciate
people.
it.
Absolutely, sir. Absolutely. But I look at yeah, I think what do I think?
What
I
does that say?
think
I think.
yeah, exactly. I think when I run for office one day, ultimately this is my promise to the people now. I'm not gonna tell you
It's
what
on
you
record.
That's on record. I'm not gonna tell you what you wanna hear, actually. I'm not doing that because I think you
Mhm.
guys are sick of it anyway. I think we're all
Yep.
fed up with that with that whole thing. I'm not
Yeah.
gonna tell you what you're gonna hear. I'm gonna tell you what the truth is. Whether you like it or not, or you want
Mhm.
to fix it or not, it's your choice. That's the choice of the American people. Whether we want to be great or not, great again or not, is the people's choice. Ultimately, the system has been rigged against us. That's true. And no, but you shouldn't live in like the victimhood mindset, and
Yep.
everything. You know, obviously that, but also understand that you can't just pick yourself up by your bootstraps anymore and just push through, push harder. Whatever. You know, it is tougher nowadays. But ultimately, you do have a choice in one thing. You can vote for someone like me who represents your values, who I'm one of you. I am you. And I'm going to go fight for you. And I'm not going to be, I can't be bought. You cannot
Mhm.
throw enough money at me to be bought, not because I'm rich, but because I have morals and I stick to them. You can vote for someone like me or similar politicians, or you can go with the same old establishment who's going to continue to sell you out. That is your choice, and that is up to you. So America's decline is optional. You can continue to vote for the enablers of American decline, or you can vote for people who are going to do something about it. Okay, here we go. Hey guys, what's up? What's up,
Hey,
Lightning
man.
Stab? Going to see you at the conference, the PFTK conference soon. In regard to feminism, Joe Rogan just did an excellent podcast with Rachel Wilson. It's a
All
must
right,
watch.
told me to watch. I'll check that out, Luke.
I'll check that out.
Love the questions, Luke.
Luke, you better be a usual. Love to see it more in the chat. Adding on to your statement about feminism, men pass down the law of a society and women pass down the culture. That's true. That's true. To a certain extent, that's true. But men also lead the ideological formation of a society and its future generations. And ultimately, I think what the elites went for the women first. Why did they go for the
Yep.
women? Well, if they can radicalize the women, see, they're atheists. They view us as glorified monkeys.
Yep.
And so if they can get the women, they assume that the men will go along with it just because they want to have sex. That works for like maybe 2 to 3 generations, but eventually what it comes down to is you're asking
Definitely
men
not
and women.
sustainable.
Yeah, it's not sustainable. You're asking men and women to do something that is unnatural. You're asking men to act contrary to their natural instinct to be leaders and to essentially run society. You're asking women to be contrary to their natural position of, being a wife and a mother and heading a household and this, that, and whatever, and following. You're asking them to be contrary and actually go into the leadership position, which most of the women politicians that I see nowadays are corrupt and they're vindictive and they're hateful. There are some good women, but a lot of them are corrupt, vindictive, and hateful. And the reason that this society will not succeed and will not long endure is because you're asking people to act contrary to human nature. And so ultimately, like I said, you can get men to fall in line just to have sex for a while, but we have to break it. And a lot of Gen Z men are breaking it. They're refusing to date. They're
Yep.
refusing to date bad women. I've done that myself. I used to be, before I was saved, I used to be the guy that I'd date anybody. Give me an opportunity. Why? Because I was starved of motherly affection growing up. I had a rough relationship with my parents. I was
Sorry
starved of
about that.
motherly affection. Thank you, sir. I was starved of motherly affection and fatherly affection. So I went and sought it in other people. Ultimately, I have wonderful grandparents. And if it wasn't for them, I would be like under a bridge homeless. But I went to these, I would date anybody because I wanted that affection. Now I've got to the point where I've rejected people because I've said, no, you don't
Standards.
follow what I want in a wife.
Yep.
You can't say I want a 1950s style traditional man while wanting to be a 1960s style feminist girl boss woman. It's not how
Yeah,
that
those
works.
two
If
don't
you
mix
wanted,
well.
yeah, exactly. If you want a traditional man, you be
Oil
a
and water.
traditional woman. Yeah, exactly. You want a traditional man, you need to be a traditional woman, and you need to do things that are going to attract that type of man. Let me see here. All great points. 100% agree on those fronts. I see you're well informed on the issue. Thank you. And Wyatt is as well. Wyatt's brilliant, gentlemen. Much smarter
Thank
than
you.
me. What do you think about the Alberta separatist movement? Based Alberta splitting from Canada. Welcome.
Got the best questions.
welcome to the United States, the 51st state of Alberta. Dude, East Canada, dude, Canada is now just like East Alaska, and now it's going to be just like West and
If
East
you're gonna give us
Alberta.
Canadian bacon, then I'm all for it.
Absolutely. Can we have maple syrup too?
Yeah.
Maple syrup, the greatest American food. Okay.
Agreed.
Should we repeal the 19th Amendment?
You know my answer, Luke. We've
Why? What would you like to answer? Should we repeal the 19th Amendment?
Oh man, do I feel like I'm canceled tonight?
You can say I don't want to answer. It's fine.
I mean, you know what I think. Look, I think there's a balance between like votership in society. Like if we're a Christian nation, like when you have people aligned with God, then women would probably be for men voting and having the say in government while they take care of the families. Something I've learned working with different people, cultures, and startups is if you're not aligned, period, even a small percentage on beliefs and culture, then the reason you have conflict is because you're misaligned. So the answer to your question, if you're not aligned, then it's not going to work. If you have a Christian nation, then I pretty much get my answer out there, what I believe. But I think alignment's important. We got so many different religions here. I think feminism has definitely hijacked a lot of things. A lot of women in the 20s didn't even want the right to vote. Many didn't care.
Right.
They just love their communities, family, and home.
Quo.
Yep.
They will follow what the status quo is.
Yep.
And so if we repeal the 19th Amendment, and if you repeal the 19th Amendment and you change the status quo, they'll follow that as well. I think probably.
Probably.
Yeah. Should we repeal the 17th Amendment? For those who don't know, the 17th Amendment changed. So before the 17th Amendment, the United States senators were elected by the state legislature instead of by the people.
Now it's by the people.
17th Amendment is what allowed that. Should we repeal that? No. I'd say no.
Definitely not.
I'd say more power to the people.
Yep. 100%.
With respective, guardrails in place, just in case, because we are not a direct democracy. We are a republic. And that is to stop the tyranny of the majority from happening, as James Madison.
We have a lot of gerrymandering, though. It's like,
absolutely.
You see these districts, it's like they look like a noodle or something. They're in squares and they're like, what shape is that? And who are they representing?
That's like, because that's like, in democratic states, they'll like either split up the state or split up the city, or they don't want to split up, but they'll put the city in with like these different areas that are more conservative to make sure that they don't have a conservative member of Congress in, or, in like, North Carolina's map is actually pretty fair, but we're in like Texas, what they're doing, you just split up these cities and put them with extremely conservative regions to counteract the leftist.
So it's like they kind of bypass the 17th that way a bit.
Exactly. Yeah. So
then you have guaranteed, voters, who they vote for. So then power is really not going to change and it's less representative, even though the people are voting.
Absolutely. Oh man, an interesting video about the psyche of the modern neurotic, and a point he made about the nature of men and women is boys will make weapons out of anything, and the girl will turn anything into dolls. Yeah, and I think a lot of what we're seeing in society now is that feminization of society, where men, like, for example, when I was growing up, I was condemned by adults for taking a stick and turning it into a lightsaber, or taking a stick and turning it into a sword, or
Yeah, or at
pretending to be a
recess. I'm like,
yeah,
why is the teacher
pretending
yelling at me? I'm just having fun.
or pretending to be a pirate, pretending to be a knight, pretending to be a king, this, that, whatever. Those things were banned, and so that you were treated as a defective girl. You can't do that to men because they're going to act out, because you're suppressing their natural intuition. And the reason that our society is so feminized is because, like you said, girls will turn anything into dolls. Anything, it's got to be sunshine and rainbows. And so we can have multiculturalism is ultimately a very feminized idea,
Mhm.
because it proceeds to say, everyone just, why can't everyone just get along, and
Nice voices, yeah.
yeah, we'll see sunshine and rainbows, and yeah. Whereas, if you, as a man, I look at it logically and I say, okay, this clearly hasn't worked. Actually, not everyone is, a blank slate. Not everyone can just operate in your society. Like, they did have different cultures, and that's fine. They can go do their cultures. And actually, the beauty of Christ's kingdom is that people from every nation, tribe, and culture come together under this one banner of Jesus Christ, but they don't abolish their cultures for
Mhm.
false unity. So a woman looks at it and says, well, we can all get along. And a man looks at it and says, actually, no, that's not how the world works. Because men, I think, a lot of times have a bit better intuition and understanding of how the world works and how ruthless the world can be.
Mhm.
What do you think?
What does Wyatt think? I don't know. Some days I don't know what Wyatt thinks. I gotta think about that. It's like my mind changes sometimes. But
Mhm.
I don't know. I mean, yeah, I definitely think masculinity is important. I'm not the most masculine man, but I have a balance. Like, I play trumpet. I'm in the arts, and I like to get along with everyone. But at the same time, I understand like tradition, order. Like, just more of an old soul. So like, always been called that my whole life. I kind of take it as a badge of honor because like I like how you like going back into statesmanship. I mean, I like try to dress in suits every day. I think it's important to men and
Absolutely.
for men to have like pride back, like, and you can be expressive and masculine and rough and like say what you want and just have a heart for people. I think that's really important for men to just get across, like to balance, the caring and protective side. And because if you're one way or the other, I think it's just not a good
Yeah,
balance.
it's a
Period.
balance.
But
Yeah.
like, yeah, it's a very fine balance, and I think a lot of men are like have black and white thinking, like, oh, I have to be, this hard, like
To be
just
Andrew
super
Tate.
strong all the time. Yeah. Or I had to be like in the yard, super feminine, like wearing makeup. Like,
Mhm.
I think there's more like a balance, like having a Christ-like heart and leading people to greatness. When you really have empathy for people, especially in a man, that goes such a long way. Like in more ways than I could have ever recalled in my life. A lot of people sometimes they're afraid to show their feelings or be vulnerable. Like you got me, I was like, I'm the most out of pocket, like open book, vulnerable person you'll meet with no shame. And some dudes are like, look at me, the look, or like, did you just say that out loud? But I think it's important to just be yourself and you follow God and really show the life you have inside you in the spirit for young men.
Yeah, absolutely. We should make Cuba the 51st state would be a huge conservative voting bloc. About that, though, people talk about how socially conservative they are, but they also have like a mass, and like the joke is like the crazy Latina, like, oh, the Latinas, they're so crazy. Yeah, the reason that they are crazy is because, and they're crazy like obsessive, like when you date a Latina, and I
Yeah.
have at one point. There's a reason that they are crazy obsessive over you, and like can't let you out of their sight for like all but 5 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And that's because they come from a culture of cheating. Everyone's cheating on
Yep.
everybody. And so the reason that like,
Very common.
like, oh my gosh, you're gonna, like, I remember when I was going to Amfest, I was dating this girl who was Hispanic at the time, not dating her anymore. But her one concern was, she said, you're gonna be wearing suits, you're gonna be very handsome.
Be around
Uh,
women. Yeah.
yeah, you're gonna be
Gotta
around
be
these
by your
women.
side.
Uh, this is crazy, what the flip, I'm going, like, you're gonna cheat on me. Like, that's the number one concern. And she ended up
Yep.
cheating on me, which is hilarious. But nevertheless,
Yeah. I guess we're
that's
in the
the
same
culture.
boat there with the
That's the culture.
Philippines
And
is
the
similar.
reason
Yeah.
that, yeah, and then the reason that they're crazy is because they live in a culture in which sexual abuse of minors is very common. unfortunately. So a lot of
Mm,
these women, they're crazy because they have undiagnosed trauma that they experienced from, their uncle or their father or this cousin or that cousin or whatever. It's very common that they are
yep.
sexually abused, both the men and the women, but mostly the little girls. So
Yeah, it's
yeah,
very
maybe they might be
unfortunate and sad.
conservative, but there's a lot of stuff in their culture that we don't want
Yep.
here. We do not want normalization of sexual abuse of minors.
No,
Actually, when Christianity came to prominence in Rome, when it became started to affect the culture in Rome,
that
first thing
became
that
taboo.
Christian
Yeah,
yeah, first thing
we
that
got rid of
Christianity
that.
started doing was they started protecting the children. In
Mm,
Roman society, quick history lesson, and I know we're going a little bit long, but we'll wrap up here in a little bit. But in Roman society, when a woman gave birth, the man of the house would look at the baby and he would decide whether he wanted the infant or not. If he doesn't want the infant, then the infant's being taken out to this place and he will be left to die of exposure. So what the Christian families started doing is they would go around to the spots that they knew the people in Rome, the pagans, would leave their children to die of exposure, and they would pick them up and they would adopt them and save them. And Christianity immediately started doing away with that when it had its impact on the culture. Also, it was very common for young boys in Roman society to, when they were 10 or 11, to be given to an older man who would sexually abuse them, would rape them over and over and over again. And it was seen as custom. This is what you do. This is how a boy becomes a man. Pedophilia was, very normalized in the culture. We have to inflict trauma upon them because it brings them into manhood, which is very strange and disgusting and
yeah,
repulsive. That's why you see ultimately we're seeing, people on the left advocating for, well, pedophilia is just a sexual,
it's just a mental disorder.
expression. Yeah, it's just a sexual expression. People they just like kids. I'm sorry, God's children are not a sexual expression. If you like minors, you should be locked up in an insane asylum because
Yep.
the children of the United States are not for sale and they are not for you to sexually abuse. So that is not happening.
Just make it into
Nowhere.
summer. Like they normalize some. They make it like an identity.
How
It's like,
about
what
instead of
are you doing?
normalizing,
Yeah.
we ostracize anyone who wants to do it? Like, how about instead of normalization, you're going to the insane asylum? How about we make
Yep.
asylums great again, right? So, but
Preach.
anyway, yeah, exactly. We can have a great talk about universal. Okay, cool. Good to know. He's going to the Presbyterians for the Kingdom Conference. I'll
Oh,
be
cool.
live from Hilton Head, South Carolina, this Wednesday.
Man, the myth, the legend.
Yes, sir, dude. Maybe I might be live on Monday night too. Actually, we'll do a
sweet.
show on Monday, Wednesday, Friday. We'll do a show on Monday. I never thought of repealing the 17th. Could doing so fragment the voter base to the extent that whole voter blocks can't as simply be influenced by cultural monoliths? Yeah, you could cut down on people being so influenced on culture, but the problem is like, so if North Carolina, Michael Whatley is running for Senate in the state of North Carolina, I'm not voting for him. I will either vote for Roy Cooper out of protest or I won't vote at all. Roy Cooper's the Democrat. He's running. He's going to win. He's a former governor. He's vaguely popular. Whatley's an establishment Republican. I'm not voting for him whatsoever. That's not happening. And so and North Carolina has, I think, a supermajority in the state legislature. I think we still have that in the state house and Senate. And so if that were the case, by the way, North Carolina GOP is so funny. At the state and local level, we're like absolute chads, but on the statewide, they just turn into like, I don't know, freaking wimps. But nevertheless, and we're going to fix that. But nevertheless, if that was the case, North Carolina would have 2 Republican senators. If let's say we go to like, I don't know, some state that has a liberal. So Georgia state legislature is Republican. John Ossoff and what's his name? Raphael Warnock. Yes, the man who ran over his ex-wife with a car.
Oh yeah,
Raphael Warnock are not senators. The United States. By the way, Raphael Warnock being a senator of the United States is disgraceful, considering the type of person he is. He's evil.
Oh yeah.
And the only reason he won in 2022 was because we run freaking Herschel Walker.
Herschel,
like,
yeah.
No. We're done with the celebrity candidates. We're going to run candidates who actually have merit. But anyway, yeah, that is the case. But I would
The great Herschel Walker.
The great Herschel Walker. When I think of great conservative thinkers throughout American history, I think of Herschel Walker.
Oh yeah, he's not number 1 on the list.
Brilliant. Bro, you are so right about Hispanic/Latino culture. Me being Hispanic/Latino. Sir, I'm gonna have to stop you right there. It is Latinx. We do not. We will not gender. No, no more gender. No, because that is a symbol of colonialization and the patriarchy. And we are not doing that anymore. Okay. So it's Latinx. Thank you very much. All right. I'm never doing that again. Just had to throw that in there.
One and done.
Exactly. Is it possible to make the election of representatives more Republican rather than directly Democratic? Our system is already as Republican as you can pretty much get at this point, because if you want a direct democracy, then the people vote on everything, and that is terrible. I mean, Athens, it has been said before that Athens, it could have been full of Socrates and and it still would have been chaos. It still would have been chaos because people often are reactionary. They just act really quickly. And so, often they make rash decisions. And the House of Representatives is closest to the people, and we want the people to have a voice, yes. But the House of Representatives is more rash, and the Senate is much more aristocratic and controlled, and they slow things down. And that's meant to put a guardrail there just to make sure that we're not making any rash decisions. Under a direct democracy, if we decided that murder should be legal, then it's legal, and then the majority impress their opinion on the minority. We have protections for that to keep that from happening in our
A lot
society.
of goats come from the house, so
exactly, that's true. That's true. No, don't say that.
no, don't say
that is a symbol of colonialization and patriarchy. Good. Based colonialization was based. Made everywhere that we colonized just turned out better. You think that the Native Americans could have built the Indians could have built this? Absolutely not. By Indians, I mean like the American Indians.
Yeah.
No, absolutely not, dude. So, but anyway. All right, any last questions, comments, concerns, accusations of complete and absolute heresy? Please put them in the chat. I'd love to see it. I'd love to see it. We love to see the accusations of heresy. We love to see it because, look, here's the deal, okay? I love all of the people, everybody. I love them all. The Mexicans and the white people and the Latinx and the Asians and China. Yes, indeed. Even China and the Indians. We love all the people.
Okay, you should low-key be like a part-time like Trump impersonator. I'd pay for that, man.
Listen. Here's the deal. Okay, I would absolutely. It's terrible. Let's see. Wait, LaFone, did you used to be Lutheran? No. What the? No, Martin Luther is on my grandmother's side. Martin Luther is my great granddaddy, but no, that's my only connection to Lutheranism. I went to a Lutheran church for a little while, but I decided against it. I'm Presbyterian. I am a Scot. I am Scottish. It's kind of in my blood.
Same here. Scottish and Irish, so.
Yeah. So, but this guy's Lutheran.
Yes.
Lutheran supremacy is happening. Yeah. So, Wes, be happy. Gabe, be happy. My Lutheran friends. Lutheran supremacy is here. The Lutherans
we got some representation right here.
Look, they're finally getting involved in American public life. It took them long enough.
It only took 80 years now.
It was always the Presbyterians, the Episcopalians, and the Baptists. Now it's mostly just the evangelicals and the Baptists. But the Presbyterians are coming back. The Episcopalians are coming back. Congregationalists are coming back. And finally, the Lutherans are doing something.
Yes, sir.
It's crazy. It's crazy.
Lutheran supremacy.
Well, if that's all that y'all have, thank you guys so much for watching. This has been a great episode, one of the best that I've had in a while.
Yeah, this has been awesome. Thanks, everyone. Super appreciate the questions and you tuning in.
Thank you guys so much. Yes, and Wyatt, we'll have to have you back on, guys. Make sure to
absolutely
after this stream goes off, make sure to stay for a minute, come back to the comment section, and put in the comment section hashtag bring Wyatt back. And we'll have him back on as soon as
get the fan club going.
Exactly, dude. Exactly. We'll make Wyatt a regular on the show. Unlike the woman that we had on one time. That was.
I mean, you could, but just for the the memes and the clout.
Oh yeah, exactly. I mean, we could bring. Well, no, the woman said she doesn't want to come back. You see, because all these chuds accused her of being a Mossad agent, and so they scared the woman away. The woman has been spooked.
Your chat is goated.
My chat is goated. I love all of you. I love my chuds. Yeah, Luke. Bring back Wyatt, dude.
There we go, buddy. Appreciate that.
Well, I'm about to end the stream, so y'all stick around to put it in the permanent comment section. So, all right. Thank you guys so much for watching. God bless you all, and may the peace of Christ go with you. I will see you all on Wednesday, actually Monday and Wednesday, live from Hilton Head, South Carolina. See you all then.